Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 14, The World of Snow. Oliver's face was currently very pale. Just then, he had used all the power available to him, but the price of tripling his speed was not a low one. And with the loss of both his legs, Olivier was currently in very bad shape. "Why aren't you leaving?" Olivier raised his head, staring at Linley. Linley just stood there, in no hurry to leave. He could tell that at present, Oliver's strength had dropped dramatically. With his legs gone, Oliver's movement ability in any battle with enemies would drop greatly as well. Although he could fly, flying while lacking two legs would make one's agility drop by half. "Thank you." After a long silence, Olivier said these two words. And then, he focused on healing his wounds. Linley's heart was in great pain right now. He turned back to look at the third floor. Barker, if Barker truly died, then if in the future, his wife Lena, their two kids, Gates, and the other brothers ask me, Linley felt helpless. In front of the divine beast, be a serpent, he had been lucky to even stay alive. There was no way Linley could have saved Barker at all. I hope that Barker's luck was as good as mine. Perhaps he will enter the fourth floor, or flee back to the second floor. Linley stood there without moving, partially to help Olivier protect against any creatures from attacking him, and partially because he wanted to wait. Wait to see if Barker would come out into the fourth floor as well. After a long while. "I'm done." Olivier stood up and glanced at Linley, not saying anything else. He immediately transformed into a blur as he flew high into the sky. Linley stood there for another half hour. In the end, he finally let out a long sigh before flying into the air as well. The frozen ground was blanketed with white snow, and it was also dotted with many large, proudly standing trees. The snow covered these trees with a layer of silver decoration. After flying for a while, Linley saw a familiar face. It was Clay, who had sparred with him at War God Mountain. "Linley." Clay laughed as he flew over. "I thought that you had already, below. I just entered the fourth floor. The person after you let out a scream of pain, and the BA serpent woke up." Linley shook his head. "I was only lucky, but my good friend Barker." Clay said consolingly, "Don't be too sad. Soon after I entered the fourth floor, I discovered Olivier with his legs severed. From him, I learned that the BA serpent had woken up. I thought that all of you had been killed by the BA serpent. It's already very lucky that you survived. Your friend would feel happy for you as well." Linley nodded. The two flew side by side, and Clay cautioned, "Stop thinking about your friend. This fourth floor is extremely dangerous as well. If you are distracted and die as a result of it, that would be a terrible waste." Linley suddenly came to himself. Taking a deep breath, he shook his head a few times. "Got it? Fane told me that in the past, they had retreated to the fifth floor. This necropolis of the gods has 18 floors in total. In the top 11 floors, every 5 floors represents one layer. The first 4 floors aren't too dangerous, while the fifth floor is actually the least dangerous of the entire layer." Clay explained. Clay had been alive for much longer than Linley. He knew many more things as well. "Oh? The fifth floor is the safest of the first 5 floors." Linley was surprised. "Right. From what Fane told me, according to the war god, every 5 floors is a layer. The danger from the first to the fifth floor is fairly average, while the 6th to the 10th floors are extremely dangerous. Even Fane could die at any time." Clay reminded. Linley nodded. In the future, he would be extremely careful. The 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th layers are all extremely dangerous. Compared to these 4 floors, the 10th floor is actually less dangerous by comparison. Clay laughed. Linley memorized these words. This was all information which Fane had no doubt received from the war god. The war god had definitely passed through the first 10 floors. Naturally, he knew the situation in these floors. 5 floors a layer, with the 5th floor being the safest floor of the first layer, while the 10th floor is the safest floor of the second layer. Linley suddenly had a strange feeling. It seems as though the safe level is to allow everyone some time to prepare. Clearly, the 6th floor would suddenly rise greatly in difficulty and danger. The 11th floor was a place where there were corpses of deities and divine sparks. As long as one wasn't a fool, one would understand, the 11th floor was most likely far more dangerous than the earlier floors. While flying past the snowy landscape, Clay laughed. Only in the first 5 floors can we rely on our personal strength to fight through those various life forms. Once we reach the 6th floor, we will have to rely on our intelligence, our strength, and our luck, all combined. Linley nodded. In the past, Desri and Fane had been so frightened that they didn't dare to enter the 6th floor. They had hidden in the 5th floor until the 10 years were up. Whoosh! There was a pile of snow below. Suddenly, a creature erupted from beneath the snow, flashing at Clay like a white flash of lightning. Clay's body instantly turned metallic, then with a furious roar, his right fist directly down towards that attacking creature. Bang! The fist slammed directly against a furry palm. Clay was sent flying backwards at high speed, while that furry creature also landed hard against the ground. Such enormous power! Clay inwardly sighed in amazement. Linley looked down with surprise as well at that furry creature. Linley had sparred with Clay before, and he knew how physically powerful Clay was. Clay is 10 times as powerful as Hatesun was, and his defense is comparable to Barker's. But he was only on par with this creature. The creature below suddenly stood up like a human would. A bear. Linley stared with shock at the creature below and spoke out. That seemingly bear-like magical beast was covered with white fur, but he had a black ring of fur lining his eyes, as though someone had punched his eyes and made them swell. Actually, that made this furry magical beast seem very adorable. I'm not a stupid bear. I'm a snowy panda cat. That furry magical beast rebuked. Swoosh! At this moment, the snowy panda cat suddenly rose up again, this time charging straight at Linley. Like a flash of white light, the snowy panda cat arrived in front of Linley. Linley couldn't help but be shocked by its speed. Whap! Linley's draconic tail, glittering with metallic light, struck against the snowy panda cat. The sudden attack by the draconic tail was extremely fast, not giving the snowy panda cat any chance to respond at all. Bang! The snowy panda cat slammed into the snowy ground again, while at the same time, a hint of blood appeared atop its pure white fur over its chest. The snowy bear stared at Linley, then at Clay, before finally bending over on all fours, then scampering away. He had fled. Linley and Clay both couldn't help but laugh. This snowy panda cat is really amusing. After a simple exchange of blows, he immediately fled. But Linley was shocked by the power of the snowy panda cat. Its strength wasn't one whit inferior to the world bear, but its speed was far greater. No wonder why it was called the snowy panda cat, and had the word cat in its name. Haha, if I had to fight this snowy panda cat by myself, it would really be troublesome. The snowy panda cat's speed seems to be faster than mine. Clay chuckled bitterly. Linley, I have the feeling that at most, I'll be able to rest on the 5th floor. The 6th floor, I probably won't be able to break through. Enough. Let's first find the tunnel. Linley flew alongside Clay, searching for the tunnel. The snowy panda cats on this 4th floor were very strange. Aside from a few of the snowy panda cats that would suddenly attack, most of the snowy panda cats didn't attack them at all. Instead, most of them were just rolled up into a ball and sleeping on the snow. At first, Linley and Clay had been worried, but afterwards, they felt more relaxed. Listen up, the two of you. Suddenly, an ancient voice rang out. Linley and Clay, in mid-flight, started, then immediately turning to look at location from which the voice rang out from. Beneath them was a snowy panda cat that was only 1 meter tall that was staring calmly at Linley and Clay. Although the snowy panda cats were much smaller than world bears, they were usually 2 or 3 meters tall at their full height. But this snowy panda cat was only a meter tall. This snowy panda cat is extremely dangerous. Linley immediately became guarded. This snowy panda cat, although physically small, gave Linley a sense of danger, not too far from the feeling which the war god and the others gave him. The ancient voice of the snowy panda cat rang out again. I am the clan leader of this clan of snowy panda cats. Linley and Clay exchanged glances. Snowy panda cats had clan leaders. Remember. On this 4th floor, as long as my children do not attack you, you are not to attack them either. If you kill any of them, then don't blame me for acting viciously against you. With a flip of the snowy panda cat's hand, a bamboo flute suddenly appeared. Right. A bamboo flute. Is he going to play the flute? Linley had never seen someone who was able to injure someone else by playing the flute. But Linley and Clay both felt that this old fellow in front of them posed an enormous threat. They didn't dare to say anything, and so Clay hurriedly said, "Don't worry." Just then, when that snowy panda cat attacked us, we didn't go full force against it either. As long as your citizens don't attack us, we definitely won't attack your children either. The passageway to the 5th level is over there, next to that giant tree. The passageway is inside the giant tree. The leader of the snowy panda cats pointed towards the distant tree. Linley and Clay immediately began to fly in that direction. Seeing Linley and Clay leave, the leader of the snowy panda cats let out a long sigh. His clan of snowy panda cats had been placed here on the 4th floor of the Necropolis of the gods, which was like being placed in a prison. As the leader of this clan of snowy panda cats, he wasn't able to do anything about that. Given his current level of strength, it wouldn't be too hard for him to kill many outsiders and then exchange their corpses for the divine spark of a demigod. But he didn't want to do this. The reason was, only he had the power to threaten and frighten experts on Linley's level. If I become a deity and leave, then these children will die soon afterwards as well. The snowy panda cat leader let out a long sigh. He, too, was a prime saint, only a single step away from becoming a deity. But the power of this leader of the snowy panda cats was greater than that of the 5 prime saints. This was because the profound truths he had gained insight into were different from that of others. It was much like how Linley, trained in the throbbing pulse of the world. In terms of attack power, it surpassed the insights which most others had gained. The profound truths this leader of the snowy panda cats had gained insight into was one of the rarest types of profound truths of the elemental laws of the wind. The 5th floor. The world of fire. Linley and Clay, immediately upon arriving in this floor, felt themselves being attacked by waves of heat. This center of this 5th floor was a volcano, while the surrounding area was filled with desolate lava flows. It was an empty land. One could see off into the distance easily. But the temperature of the lava flows here was very high. Boss. A black shadow suddenly flew over at high speed. BB. Linley could clearly feel that it was BB who was flying over. BB leaped directly into Linley's arms, his eyes turning misty. Boss, I arrived at the 5th floor long ago. I've been waiting for you here the entire time. Desri and the others said that you encountered the BA serpent on the 3rd floor. I've been worried about you the entire time, boss. Linley couldn't help but think back to what happened on the 3rd floor, his heart once more filled with fear. Fortunately, nothing happened. Wonderful. BB's face was all smiles. BB's experience had been much easier than Linley's. He hadn't encountered the BA serpent, and the attacks of the undead and the other creatures simply didn't pose any threat to BB at all. Hey, boss, where's Barker? Isn't Barker with you? BB suddenly wondered. Linley's face froze. The look on his face couldn't help but become somewhat ugly, and his eyes had a hint of pain in them. BB was intelligent. Seeing Linley's reaction, BB was able to guess what happened. "Boss, Barker, could it be on the third floor?" Linley let out a sigh. "Right. On the third floor, the BA serpent woke up. We didn't have the ability to fight back at all. I was lucky and managed to rely on Blood Violet to flee to the fourth floor. As for Barker..." Linley's voice grew low, and in the end, he wasn't able to continue. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 15, 8 Years in the Necropolis. Waves of heat permeated the fifth floor. It was hard to even see people in the distance, due to the distorted air. "Linley, hurry on over." A familiar voice rang out from afar. Linley couldn't help but turn to look towards the voice. The distant figure was very blurry. But Linley was still able to tell that the person standing in the distance was the senior apprentice of the War Gods College, Fane. Although Linley was very dispirited, his will was still very firm. In a place like the Necropolis of the Gods, unless you chose to give up, your only choice was to harden your faith in yourself and continue, one step at a time. "BB, let's head on over," Linley said calmly, and BB immediately jumped onto Linley's shoulders. Transforming into a blur, Linley quickly arrived at the place where the many experts had gathered. Not only Fane was there. Desri, Rosary, Tulili, and Rutherford were there as well. All 5 of the Prime Saints were together. Aside from the 5 of them, there were 3 of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions as well. "Now that the 2 of you are here, everyone is present," Desri said with a calm laugh. Linley couldn't help but feel puzzled. What did that mean? Everyone was now present? "Linley, come, sit." Fane gestured. "I heard that in the lower floors, the BA serpent woke up. That truly is a calamity. Fortunately, you survived. Now, let's discuss the matter of ascending to the 6th floor." Linley came to a rest, sitting down cross-legged. To Linley's scales, the waves of blazing heat coming from below didn't pose much of a threat. "You aren't going to discuss things with those people?" BB pointed in confusion to another group of men and magical beasts off in the distance. Over 30 experts had survived and made it to the 5th floor. Amongst them were over 10 magical beasts, with a similar number in men. Originally, there had been 60 human experts of the 80+ experts present, but 30 or so had died on the 3rd floor, and several had most likely died on the 1st and 2nd floor as well. The 10 or so remaining people were probably hiding on the 2nd floor, not daring to enter the 3rd floor again. "Them," the severe-looking Tulili said calmly, "if they get involved, they'll only disturb us." Linley immediately understood. Glancing at the distant Olivier and Hayward, he thought to himself, Tulili's intentions are very clear. Only these 10 experts are the cream of the crop. BB and I aren't any weaker than them. As for those 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions, their power is also unfathomable. As for Olivier, Hayward, the disciples of the War Gods College, and the various magical beast experts, they are at least a level lower in power. In a place like this, the top-tier experts naturally would form a unit. Those 20+ slightly weaker experts formed into a second unit. Although the second unit contained people like Desri's good friends, Hayward and Higginson, along with several fellow disciples of Fane's, and 2 of Tulili's apprentices, there was nothing that could be done. Linley, BB, Cleo Kaleo and your 2 brothers, you 5 probably aren't that familiar with the 6th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. Let me explain. Desri said solemnly. BB, you saw just a while ago that the only creatures here on the 5th floor are a few magma demons. In terms of power, they are only comparable to the likes of Hayward. Magma demons. Linley was puzzled. He had never seen any magma demons. Desri looked at Linley. Linley, you didn't come in time. Those magma demons are formed from lava, and are roughly comparable to a human in size and shape. They are extremely strong and possess great defense, but they are a bit slow. Their power is most likely comparable to your good friend Barker, although their defense is perhaps a bit weaker than Barker's. Linley now had a clear understanding of these creatures. The fifth floor is the weakest floor of the first five. Those magma demons have already been destroyed by us. Desri continued. This fifth floor is a floor for us to prepare and rest. But soon, we will be entering the sixth floor. Linley, Bibi, and the three six-eyed golden Ni lions were listening carefully. On the sixth floor, the danger level would rise dramatically, far beyond that of the fifth floor. The sixth floor is a world filled with lava and rocks. There is a powerful creature there, the Flame Tyrant. Flame Tyrant? To be precise, this Flame Tyrant is hundreds of meters tall, and his body is composed of countless tough boulders. His strength is boundless, and his defense has also reached a terrifying level. Desri's face was solemn. Most importantly of all, he wields a bloodlust great axe. If any of us are hit by that great axe, we will most likely die. Linley's heart twitched. As long as one was hit, one would die. That was too terrifying. And that's not all. Aside from the Flame Tyrant, the sixth floor also has hundreds of magma demons. Desri's face grew even more solemn. One or two magma demons aren't a problem, but hundreds of magma demons are extremely dangerous. Linley felt himself at a loss for words. Hundreds of magma demons. Isn't that equivalent to hundreds of undying warriors? Linley was inwardly shocked. Although these magma demons have slightly weaker defense than an undying warrior, there are hundreds of them. That is simply terrifying. Desri continued, these large numbers of magma demons all obey the orders of the Flame Tyrant. Actually, I have a feeling that the Flame Tyrant is an evolved form of the magma demons. Think about it. They are all formed from lava rocks, except the Flame Tyrant is as massive as a mountain, while magma demons are the size of a human. The nearby Rutherford laughed coldly. A Flame Tyrant is essentially a magma demon magnified hundreds of times over. Its strength and attack power is also hundreds of times that of a magma demon. Linley and Bibi looked at each other. Boss, those magma demons really were strong, on par with Barker. If the Flame Tyrant's power is hundreds of times greater than the magma demons, Bibi's voice rang out in Linley's mind. Linley maintained his silence. Linley now had a clear understanding of what the sixth floor was like. The sixth floor's adversary was a Flame Tyrant who commanded hundreds of magma demons. The Flame Tyrant itself was like a mountain, and had the power to smash a mountain to dust with a single punch. Nobody could withstand that sort of power. Desri was silent for a long time. After Linley and the others had fully absorbed this news, Desri continued, none of us are a match for the Flame Tyrant by ourselves. Only if we join forces and work together will we be able to charge into the sixth floor. Linley nodded slightly. 3,000 years ago, we did battle against the Flame Tyrant. Desri said. The eyes of Linley, Bibi, and the three six-eyed golden Ni lions lit up. Only with experience could one form a good strategy on how to deal with the Flame Tyrant. In truth, last time, it was Fane and Tulili who attacked the Flame Tyrant. As for the rest of us, we were sent fleeing by a swarm of magma demons. Desri added. 3,000 years ago, he hadn't even had the chance to touch the Flame Tyrant. Fane spoke. Of the five of us, Tulili possesses the strongest attack. No one disputed this. Linley couldn't help but look at this person, the number one expert of the Great Plains of the Far East, the man known as the War Saint, Tulili. Tulili said calmly, the defense of the Flame Tyrant is the most terrifying defense I have ever seen. But 3,000 years ago, our power was weaker than it is right now. The others all nodded. After 3,000 years, the five of them had become prime saints. Their power had improved dramatically compared to 3,000 years ago. Once we enter the sixth floor, the seven of you need to help me, Rutherford, and Rosary clear a path. The three of us, joining forces, should be able to deal with that flame tyrant. Tullali said. Rutherford and Rosary both nodded. Desri explained to Linley, Bibi, and the three six-eyed golden Ni lions, this is a powerful attack which the three of them have developed together after researching for a long time. Most likely, this is the most powerful attack we are capable of. All right. I'll help clear a path. Linley nodded. Since Tullali was publicly acknowledged as the prime saint with the greatest attack, and had two others helping him, the power of their combined attack definitely would not be weak. Now, what we need to do is, Desri laughed calmly. Train here and prepare on the 5th floor. Fane laughed as well. We'll first train for 8 years, then head off to the 6th floor. What? Linley was somewhat astonished. They only had 10 years in the Necropolis of the Gods, but they were going to spend 8 of them here on the 5th floor? But Linley quickly understood. He had learned from Clay that the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th floors were extremely dangerous. In these 4 floors, they probably wouldn't even have the chance to rest. To go past these 4 floors, if they were successful, most likely they would only need 10 days or half a month. Prepare well. Each of the following floors, if we aren't careful, will be the death of us. If you are afraid, you can also stay here on the 5th floor and wait for the 10 years to be up. Tullali stood up as he spoke calmly, and then flew by himself off into the distance to begin his meditations. Not just Linley and the other 9 experts. Even Olivier, Hayward, and the other 20 experts knew how terrifying the 6th floor was, and so nobody was in a hurry to enter. All of them focused on seizing every available moment to train. Perhaps in this short period of time, they might make some breakthrough. Waves of heat distorted the air. Embers could be seen everywhere. The experts in the 5th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods began to train and meditate. Linley stared at the distant figures, all made blurry by the waves of heat. Olivier, the human experts, the magical beast experts, these 30+ people were the most elite group of experts in the Yulan continent. Right now, all of them were training quietly. Linley and Bibi glanced at each other, their minds linked. The man and his magical beast began to train. Thrum. 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 The throbbing pulse of the world was omnipresent. Even though Linley was in the Necropolis of the Gods, Linley could still clearly feel that mysterious, profound throbbing pulse of the world. Every single pulse contained extremely profound mysteries. Linley began to meditate and attune himself to it, while at the same time, quickly mentally experimenting the profound truths of the earth over and over. 1 year. 2 years. 3 years. Many of the experts would train for a year or half a year, and then get up and test out the attacks they had developed or improved. Just like that, time continued to move forward. In the past, Linley had needed only a year to condense the 256 waves of the throbbing pulse of the world into 128 waves, but he needed 5 full years to make it a bit past halfway on his attempt to further condense the 128 waves into 64 waves. This was all as Linley had predicted. The throbbing pulse of the world became harder and harder to fuse in the later stages. In the blink of an eye, 8 years had passed. The 5th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods was as it had been in the past, with waves of heat distorting the air. Many experts had finished their training long ago. After all, many of them had been training for thousands of years. A few years now was only enough to further perfect some of their existing attacks and condition themselves. Why is Linley still training? We're waiting on him now. Rutherford couldn't help but frown as he stared at the distant Linley, still in the meditative position. By now, the 5 prime saints, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, and Bibi had stopped training. Bibi had actually reached the level of transforming into 8 doppelgangers using the shadow-shaped doppelganger technique. In their unit, the only one left was Linley, who was still totally immersed in his training. Don't be impatient. My boss has already reached the critical juncture point. Once he makes this breakthrough, his power will multiply several times over. Bibi stood next to Linley, staring coldly at the people in front of him as he spoke. A breakthrough that will allow him to increase his power several times over. Desri, Tulili, and the other experts couldn't help but feel astonished. They had already reached the level of being prime saints, and had reached the end of the path of training they had chosen. Unless they made the true, final breakthrough and reached the demigod level, it was very hard for them to improve at all. At their current levels of insight, it was impossible for their power to multiply by several times over, unless they truly became a deity. Whew! Linley let out a long breath, then opened his eyes, a smile on his face. After spending 8 years, Linley had finally, fully mastered the 64 layered waves of the throbbing pulse of the world, and the attack of his profound truths of the earth had once again multiplied several times over. Linley looked at the people standing there, and he instantly understood. He couldn't help but let out a calm laugh, then said, "Apologies. I've made you wait for a long time. Shall we head out now?" Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 16, The Flame Tyrant. The 30-plus experts came together in front of the corridor from the 5th floor to the 6th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods. Linley could tell that Oliver's aura seemed to have changed. In his heart, he couldn't help but feel astonished. This Olivier, could it be that he has made another breakthrough? As the prodigy sword saint, Olivier had needed only 12 years to reach a level where even Hadesun was no match for him. Rising to the level of being just beneath the 5 prime saints. This rate of improvement was very terrifying. Now that another 8 years had passed, it would be strange if Olivier hadn't improved, actually. Desri looked at Hayward and the 20 other experts, then said loudly, "You should know the situation on the 6th floor. The 10 of us will be responsible for dealing with the flame tyrant. As for the rest of you, your responsibilities will be lighter. As long as you can stay alive, go search for the exit to the 7th floor." The other 20 experts nodded. Their task was far easier. Even if Desri hadn't instructed them to do so, they would have still gone in search of the exit. "Enough. Let's head out," Desri said in a bright voice. And then, Desri and the rest of the 5 prime saints, Linley, Bibi, Cleo and his siblings 6-eyed golden Ni lions, took the lead, stepping into the stairway and heading out towards the 6th floor. Behind them, the 20 remaining experts followed closely. Linley and Bibi exchanged glances. They were both very confident. Compared to 8 years ago, Linley not only had improved in his profound truths of the earth, his spiritual energy had improved as well. In fact, Linley had the feeling that he was about to make a breakthrough and reach the rank of Grand Mega Saint. Battle Chi refining, after all, only needed a bit of spiritual energy to control it. But 8 years of training had caused Linley's battle chi to reach the maximum possible amount a saint-level dragon blood warrior could reach. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 10 most powerful saints of the Yulan continent transformed into shadowy flashes. In the blink of an eye, they simultaneously entered the 6th floor, the world of the flame tyrant. Hot! As soon as he entered the 6th floor, Linley felt greater heat than he had ever felt before. Right now, Linley and the other 9 experts were standing atop glowing red rocks. This entire 6th floor was colored red by lava and molten rock. Drip, drip, scarlet flows of lava streamed like rivers throughout the 6th floor, occasionally releasing bubbles of gas. In the area around the lava rivers were glowing red rocks. Normal creatures would not be able to survive in a place like this. The other 20 experts entered the 6th floor as well. "Quick, search for the exit," Desri instructed mentally. The 20-plus experts didn't say anything, immediately flying away. Desri glanced at Linley, Tulili, and the others. Without needing to speak, all of them began to fly together. Tulili, Rosary, and Rutherford flew in the center, while the other 7 experts surrounded them. Tulili and the others were already beginning their preparations. They might encounter the Flame Tyrant at any time. If we can avoid even meeting the Flame Tyrant before we enter the 7th floor, that would be good. Linley secretly thought to himself, while at the same time he carefully inspected his surroundings, searching for the passageway that would lead them to the 7th floor. Suddenly, within one of the rivers of lava, a stone popped out. The strange thing was, this stone had eyes and a mouth. The stone suddenly flew out from within the magma river. It was actually the head of one of the magma demons. That magma demon roared, "Humans! Not good!" The faces of Linley and the others instantly changed. Swish! 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 From within the river of lava. Suddenly one magma demon after another appeared. The bodies of the magma demons were pure scarlet, and wrapped by faint wreaths of flame. They were roughly 2.5 meters tall, and wielded stone axes, warhammers, and other heavy weapons. In the blink of an eye, Linley saw 300 magma demons appear within the area of their group. The 6th floor is extremely large. If all the magma demons in the nearby areas are as numerous as they are here, then there are definitely over 1,000 of them. Linley thought inwardly, while at the same time, the experts began to fly at high speed while maintain high alert, ready to attack at any moment. "Oh, humans have come!" A rumbling, thunderous voice rang out within the 6th floor. The rocky ground of the 6th floor began to shake, and even the lava flows began to bubble and rise up in waves, as a massive figure arose from within the middle of a lava river. It was simply enormous. As it stood up, even the level of the lava river itself dropped dramatically. It really is like a mountain. Linley saw that distant, enormous creature, the Flame Tyrant. The Flame Tyrant's entire body was formed from tough, unyielding boulders, with fire surrounding its entire body. With such an enormous body, its physical strength alone was no doubt at a terrifying level. "Everyone, be careful." The faces of the 10 experts were solemn. The Flame Tyrant glanced at them with a contemptuous look, then laughed wildly. "The likes of you would dream about entering the 7th floor? In your dreams. Today, all of you will die. Children, come kill these outsiders along with me." The Flame Tyrant's voice was extraordinarily loud, and his words echoed like the thunder in every part of this world. As the Flame Tyrant spoke, he suddenly summoned a dark red great axe into his hand. The axe head of this great axe alone was over 100 meters wide. In the hands of the Flame Tyrant, however, this bloodlust great axe was nothing more than a small hatchet, and he twirled it with grace and ease. "Kill!" Having received the order, the large amount of magma demons hovering in mid-air simultaneously let out howls of rage as they charged towards Linley's group. Even Olivier and the other 20+ saints came under attack from the magma demons as well. "Charge through them!" Tulili ordered. The 10 major experts didn't hesitate at all, charging straight towards the Flame Tyrant. Halfway there, over 100 magma demons surrounded them. Earlier on the 5th floor, it was Desri, Bibi, and a group of experts killing several magma demons. But now, it was over 100 magma demons attacking them. Have to block them. The outer layer of 7 experts knew this very well. Facing the attacking magma demons, Linley fought empty-handed. F***ck off. Linley directly punched towards one of them. "Ha!" The magma demon laughed loudly as it sent a fist smashing towards Linley. Linley used his draconic scales and the outer layer of pulse guard defense to accept this punch, taking the heavy blow of the magma demon's stony fist head on. Linley's body trembled slightly, but the magma demon's body trembled, then exploded into shards of rock. What terrifying strength! Linley was inwardly shocked. If he were to take those blows at full strength, he wouldn't have been able to repel it so lightly. Just then, he had primarily used his pulse guard defense to ameliorate 90% of the power of the enemy's attack. How could the 10%? Upon encountering Linley's draconic scales, possibly harm Linley. Against the magma demons, Linley only utilized the 256 layered waves of the throbbing pulse of the world. Boom! Every single magma demon which attempted to attack Fane were smashed flying away by Fane's lightning-fast fists. Fane's speed was simply too fast. Those magma demons couldn't touch him at all. But magma demons were extremely durable, and Fane's attacks were only able to heavily injure them. It wasn't that Fane wasn't powerful, it was that Fane didn't dare to use his full force. He had to conserve his energy. Each of the magma demons which attacked Desri, upon drawing near him, suddenly toppled down from the skies for seemingly no reason at all. Desri was originally a Grand Mega Saint of light-style magic. He was currently a Prime Saint, and his spiritual attacks were at a terrifying level. Although these magma demons possessed tremendous physical attack and defense, Desri's spiritual attack just so happened to strike at their weakness. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions very forthrightly smashed the magma demons with their dancing paws, sending rocks everywhere and heavily injuring those magma demons, with many dying. At times, when the 6-eyed golden Ni lions wished, they would suddenly open their mouths and directly swallow the magma demons into their stomachs. But BB was terrifying. His speed was comparable to Fane's, and those magma demons weren't able to touch BB at all. But even the most casual claw swipe from BB would heavily injure the magma demons. Boss, these magma demons are really tough to deal with. Their bodies are too hard. BB's voice rang out in Linley's mind. Of course they are hard. Linley understood. He had once tried to be like BB, and to use his speed to dodge the enemy's attack, and then use pure force to strike against the bodies of the magma demons. But the defense of the magma demons was simply too great. Linley's pure strength-based attacks were only able to injure the magma demons. Bang! Yet another fist from Linley shook yet another magma demon in front of him into powder. Different profound truths clearly result in different levels of power for attacks. Linley couldn't help but sigh inwardly. My profound truths of the earth, despite not having reached the limit, in terms of power, is far more powerful than the profound truths of the wind. Even prime saints could have fairly large differences in power. For example, that leader of the snowy panda cats, who had mastered an extremely powerful and profound truth of the elemental laws of the wind. As for Desri and Fane, the profound truths they had gained insight into could only be considered ones with fairly low attack power amongst the manifold elemental laws. Boom! Boom! Every single one of the magma demons attacking Linley was reduced to powder. This sight caused many of the other saints to feel astonished. Based just on pure physical attacks, at most they might be able to break the magma demons into small pieces of rocks, but they couldn't possibly reduce them into powder. The flame tyrant is here. Desri called out softly. You little rascal. You'll be the first to die. The flame tyrant stared angrily at Linley. Then, like a thunderbolt, it leapt off the rocky ground, making the rocky ground tremble and crack as it delivered a mighty chop with the bloodlust great axe in its hands. Clearly, Linley's military exploits had been seen by the flame tyrant. Rosary! Tulili growled. Rosary, Tulili, and Rutherford, who had been prepared this entire time, finally unleashed their attack. Suddenly, countless amounts of ice and frost descended in an area of many kilometers, and even the rivers of lava were chilled to become rocks. The fires covering the body of the flame tyrant were extinguished, and the scarlet red stones on his body turned a much dimmer red as well, as countless amounts of frost and ice covered his body. The flame tyrant's attacking motion suddenly came to a halt, as though he had been frozen. Water-style forbidden level spell, Absolute Zero. Under the attack of this Absolute Zero spell, generally speaking, when it was used, that terrifying drop in temperature alone would cause the opponent to freeze, then shatter into countless pieces. Even the opponent's soul would be frozen, then shatter. But the target of this spell was the flame tyrant. This forbidden level spell, Absolute Zero, was only capable of affecting his soul and making him temporarily dizzied. In addition, encased in countless amounts of ice, his weakness, his power dropped as well. Swish! Immediately afterwards, Rutherford transformed into a ray of light, charging straight towards the flame tyrant. Rutherford, the #1 saint of the Arctic ice caps, who had been training there for thousands of years, had reached a level of perfection in terms of utilizing the forces of glacial ice. Rutherford's palms suddenly glowed with a faint blue light, and he smashed them hard against the body of the flame tyrant. The strange thing was, the countless amounts of ice and frost that had been layering the body of the flame tyrant suddenly sank deep into the flame tyrant's body. Crunch! The enormous body of the flame tyrant actually began to be covered with countless tiny cracks. The body of the flame tyrant was extremely hot, but after being covered by the opposite element spell, Absolute Zero, and then with Rutherford forcing that energy deep into its body, the incomparably tough rocky body of the flame tyrant began to crack on a wide scale from the sudden change in temperature. Bastard! The flame tyrant finally recovered from his state of dizziness. Realizing the situation he was in, he couldn't help but roar in anger. Die! Tulili had already reached the flame tyrant's body. Dark black light surrounded Tulili's fists, and the entire area around them was filled with countless cracks in space-time. Tulili's fists seemed to carry the strength of the heavens themselves, as he smashed viciously against the body of the flame tyrant. The already cracked body, suddenly. Boom! Countless rocks were sent flying everywhere by that terrifyingly powerful explosion. The flame tyrant had exploded into countless rocky fragments. Success! Tulili, Rosary, and Rutherford all let out a long sigh. This was the ultimate attack of the three of them. First they pooled their energy together to cause the flame tyrant's soul to be attacked, while at the same time counteracting the heat of the flame tyrant's body with the Absolute Zero spell. Then, Rutherford would control the frost and the ice to make it go deep into the flame tyrant's body. Fire and ice were polar opposites, and the sudden clash between them would cause the rocks which made up its body to crack. This caused the defensive power of the flame tyrant to drop by 90%. With only 10% of its defense remaining, it had naturally shattered when facing Tulili's most powerful attack. If they didn't work together, that terrifying defensive power of the flame tyrant probably would allow it to take Tulili's full power attack without much impact. Linley said to himself. Now that the flame tyrant was dead, everyone naturally felt much more relaxed. It would be fairly easy to deal with the remaining magma demons. Let's hurry up and find the exit, Desri said. Everyone nodded, feeling much more relaxed. However, what nobody noticed was that during that wild explosion earlier, when countless rocks had been blasted in every direction, there was a seemingly translucent, fist-sized rock that had also been shot out far away. This translucent rock, in the distance, began to spin. Rumble. The entire rocky ground was beginning to shake. What is going on? Tulili, Rutherford, Linley, and the others felt shocked. Crunch. Large amounts of cracks appeared in the ground of the 6th floor, and then one enormous rock after another flew up, as well as a large amount of the rocks in the lava rivers. Over billions of enormous boulders flew up. Linley and the others watched with gaping mouths and stunned gazes. Not good. Everyone had the sense that something bad was happening. However, nobody knew what the problem was. All 10 experts were on guard, carefully inspecting their surroundings. But on the 6th floor, one rock after another continued to rise into the air. Whoosh! 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 All of the giant rocks, as though listening to some command, shot out to one location at the same time. With a terrifying series of sonic booms, trillions of boulders instantly clustered around one location, and that location was the place where the translucent rock was floating. Countless boulders surrounded that translucent rock. In the blink of an eye, yet another flame tyrant appeared. The faces of the 10 experts changed dramatically. That translucent rock. The 10 experts seemed to see, just then, those countless boulders clustering around the nucleus. Desri's face sank down. That was the core of the flame tyrant. Without destroying that translucent rock, we can't kill the flame tyrant. He can just make himself be reborn. You have truly made me angry. The mountain-like flame tyrant's body was once again wreathed in flames, and his eyes were filled with fiery rage as well. Wielding its bloodlust great axe, he bellowed with fury, "You detestable humans want to enter the 7th floor? In your dreams. All of you will die." The mighty bellow of the flame tyrant echoed throughout the 6th floor. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 17, The Tunnel's Location. On the 6th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, the mountain-like flame tyrant strode forward on the rocky terrain, wielding that bloodlust great axe in his hand, twin eyes blazing with rage while also howling furiously. Instantly, all of the lava flows in the 6th floor began to bubble and rise up. Linley and the rest of the 10 major experts, hovering in mid-air, had a bad feeling. "What should we do?" Rosary asked quietly. The others were all silent. "We lost the best opportunity that we had. To kill the flame tyrant a second time will be very difficult." Tullali's gaze was totally focused on the distant flame tyrant. "Rutherford, Rosary. All we can do is to try again and see if we can succeed." Rutherford and Rosary all nodded slightly. "Children!" The flame tyrant roared furiously. "All of you, attack! Kill them alongside me." As he spoke, the flame tyrant transformed into a fiery blur, carrying a terrifying howling sound with him as he charged forward. Although the flame tyrant was physically large, his speed was also extremely fast. The 10 major experts reacted in perfect unison. "First retreat backwards. By Rosary and the others sometime." Desri's voice rang out in the minds of the other 9 experts. Forbidden level spells, especially large-scale ones, needed a good period of time. The 10 major experts flew backwards at high speed like 10 meteors. All of them were extremely fast, not slower than the flame tyrant at all. HRMPH. The flame tyrant's furious snort could be heard. Gruel, a thickly dense crowd of magma demons began to surround them, coming from all corners. "Can't allow ourselves to get corralled by these magma demons. Once our speed drops and the flame tyrant catches up, we'll be in terrible shape." Fane's voice rang out in the minds of the various experts. All of the experts present understood this logic. Instantly, the 7 major experts on the outside perimeter began to utilize their special skills. They had to protect the 3 inside their perimeter and make sure they weren't affected. Strange. Linley flew at high speed, but found out that not a single one of the magma demons dared approach him. The magma demons are all afraid to go near Linley. Desri, Fane, and the others, upon seeing this, didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. All they could do was to work hard to force each of the magma demons back. Against the other magical beast experts, or against the likes of Fane and Desri, the magma demons would at most be heavily injured. All the magma demons needed to do was rest and heal for a while, and they would be fine. But against Linley, as long as Linley's fist hit them, those magma demons' bodies would transform into powder, and they would become deader than dead. "Linley, protect Rosary." Desri's voice rang out in Linley's mind. "Understood." Linley flew closer towards Rosary. Instantly, none of the magma demons dared to attack Rosary either. Any that did attempt to attack Rosary, Linley would suddenly flash next to and swing a fist at. Linley's fist was death to any magma demons it touched. "Kill that human female!" The flame tyrant roared frantically. The flame tyrant knew how powerful Rosary was. The flame tyrant was a fire-type creature, while Rosary just so happened to be his nemesis, although Desri was also a Grand Master Saint. To the likes of the flame tyrant, the threat he posed was far weaker than that of Rosary. Roar! 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 Instantly, a large number of the magma demons ground their teeth and, no longer paying Linley any more mind, roared with fury as they all charged towards Rosary. Wonderful, they are coming. Linley let out a loud laugh, sweeping his dark golden gaze across the many magma demons, and then he transformed into a gust of wind. Not only did his twin fists dance about, even his two legs whirled about in a dance of death like blades. Anything struck by Linley's legs were also instantly reduced to powder. Rumble. The temperature suddenly dropped precipitously. The previously boiling lava rivers suddenly congealed, transforming into flat rock. Even the scarlet-red coloration of the rocks turned to a dark black color. Countless amounts of frost and ice descended down from the heavens within an area of several kilometers around the flame tyrant. Water-style forbidden level magic, absolute zero. Roar. The flame tyrant's entire body was covered with frost and ice as well, but then, letting out a loud bellow, its body, which had already turned a dark gray rocky color, suddenly once more slowly began to turn red. As for that layer of ice and frost covering it, it slowly began to thaw and melt. Seeing this, everyone had a bad feeling. His soul wasn't affected. Rosary's face changed. The forbidden level magic, absolute zero, also had a secondary soul-affecting attacking. Earlier, the first time they used it, the flame tyrant had felt dizzy due to the attack on his soul. But this time, the flame tyrant wasn't impacted at all. Whoosh! An invisible burst of energy erupted from Desri, striking towards the flame tyrant at astonishing speed. Instantly, it entered the flame tyrant's body. The light-style Grand Mega Saint, Desri, was highly skilled at spiritual attacks. The bellows of the flame tyrant halted. Good. The eyes of Fane, Tulili, and the other experts lit up. Rutherford. Tulili growled. A lightning-quick flash. Rutherford's face was rather fierce, and his palms were completely covered with blue light. Anyone near Rutherford wouldn't be able to sense a hint of cold at all, because Rutherford had already reached an extremely high level of control over the freezing power of the elemental laws of water. But at this moment, below the flame tyrant, dozens of magma demons suddenly appeared, which simultaneously charged towards Rutherford, attempting to block him. Like a flash of blue lightning, Rutherford dodged past more than half the magma demons, and then landed successive blows with his palms against two of them. Those two magma demons instantly charged into blocks of ice, and with a crunch sound, the two magma demons instantly shattered into icy flakes. Die! Rutherford had already reached the flame tyrant, and he was about to strike down with his twin palms. Whoosh! The motionless flame tyrant's enormous body suddenly retreated at high speed, while at the same time, the bloodlust great axe in his hand, gleaming with bloody aura, cast a dazzling, devilish flash of light as it chopped down towards Rutherford's head. The speed of this chop was extremely fast, and had reached a simply astonishing speed. Although the flying speed of the flame tyrant was lower than Rutherford's, the speed at which he wielded the bloodlust great axe was terrifyingly fast. Careful! Linley, Desri, Fane, and the others grew worried. Ah! Rutherford raised his head and saw the freezing light of that 100-meter-long axe head chop down at him. He was terrified, his heart shaking. He didn't have the chance to run or flee, so all he could do was let out a furious roar, slamming his blue, glowing hands upwards in an attempt to block. Using his palms against the bloodlust great axe. The two were simply incomparable. Clang! A metallic sound could be heard, and Rutherford's body was sent flying backwards like a meteor. But this time, the flame tyrant wasn't in a hurry to continue charging after him. He just stood there, laughing loudly. Rutherford. Tulili and the others immediately went forward to catch him. Rutherford's face was extremely pale. His arms were gone beneath the elbows, but the strange thing was, they weren't just cut off, they had completely disappeared. His shoulders and his clothes were torn and stained with blood. Don't touch that axe. That axe is very strange and very frightening. Rutherford said, his entire body still trembling. Desri immediately stretched out his hands and shot out a glittering, starlight-like ray of light, covering Rutherford's entire body. Rutherford's wounds began to regenerate at an astonishing speed, and even those two disappeared arms began to rapidly regrow. Ha ha, amusing, amusing. The flame tyrant actually began to laugh loudly. The flame tyrant is toying with us. Desri frowned. Linley glanced at the flame tyrant as well. The flame tyrant truly was toying with them. Perhaps just then, its earlier rage was just an act. In particular, Linley was certain of one thing: just then, when the flame tyrant was struck by Desri's spiritual attack, it should have been faking its reaction. Otherwise, it would be too much of a coincidence for him to have suddenly recovered and attacked Rutherford at the critical moment. He wouldn't have been to seize the opportunity so perfectly, preventing Rutherford from even being able to flee. Ha ha, the flame tyrant's thunderous sound shook the world of the fifth floor. Amusing. Truly amusing. Are you very surprised? Indeed, the first time you attacked me, you had the chance to kill me. However, that was me being overconfident. The flame tyrant stared at the distant group of humans hovering in mid-air. Spiritual attacks? In terms of spirits, mine is incomparably powerful. In addition, I have bloodlust. The flame tyrant looked at the great axe in his hand. This is a true divine artifact. By relying on bloodlust, I can enter a bloodlust state. In this state, your spiritual attacks cannot harm me at all. Desri and Linley exchanged a glance. Terrible. Everyone felt the situation was grim. Originally, I could have perhaps spared one or two of you. But now, the flame tyrant's body began to faintly emit a bloodthirsty red light. All of you will die. As he finished speaking, the flame tyrant's body began to emit a crunch-crunch series of sounds. The flame tyrant's body was shrinking. The originally hundreds of meters tall flame tyrant, wreathed by flames and red light, soon transformed from being hundreds of meters in size to only a few dozen meters tall. Currently, the flame tyrant's body was completely covered with a layer of red light, and its aura had become even more terrifying. It has been a long time since I have been in my battle form. The flame tyrant's bloodlust great axe shrank by more than half as well. It truly was a divine artifact. Everyone, be careful. The 10 experts all felt that this matter had just become very dangerous. For now, they weren't sure how to deal with this flame tyrant. Swish. The flame tyrant's body flickered, transforming into a devilish, bloody red streak of light which cut through the air, so fast that he was comparable to Fane. In terms of speed, Fane, BB, and Desri had the fastest speed amongst the 10, while the others were a level lower in speed. The devilish red light surged towards Tulili. Tulili couldn't dodge in time. Break. Tulili's face was extremely ferocious. He let out an angry roar, smashing out with his twin fists. Clang. Tulili's twin arms immediately exploded apart. And he himself was smashed backwards like a meteor. Blood splattered everywhere from that vicious collision. Tulili, the prime saint with the greatest attack power of the 5, was knocked by a single blow into a state where his life or death was unknown. At this time, Linley and the rest of the 9 remaining experts fled to a distant location. Desri's body had transformed into a beam of light. He moved extremely fast, and discovered Higginson and the others. Have you discovered the exit yet? Higginson and the other 20+ experts had been searching for the exit to the 7th floor this entire time. Can't find it? Higginson was both frantic and helpless. The exit. Haha, a great axe flashed past Desri's group, and Desri immediately grabbed Higginson and dodged in a flash. Blood flew everywhere, and a magical beast as well as 2 human saints were instantly bisected. Their corpses fell from the skies. The corpse of the magical beast fell onto the rocky ground, while the other two corpses fell directly into the river of lava. The distant Fane's face changed. Sixth brother. You won't be able to find the tunnel. The flame tyrant, hovering in mid-air and wrapped by that red light, was laughing loudly. The exit to the 7th floor is actually in the center of the 6th floor, but I have over 1,000 of my children protecting it, and they have already fully blocked it off. If you want to enter the 7th floor, you have to kill over 1,000 of my children. Linley and the other experts felt their hearts tremble. Over 1,000. Linley and Bibi exchanged glances. Boss, even if I were the one to charge over, at most I'd be able to kill 10 before the flame tyrant reached the exit again. Bibi also realized how bad the situation was. This flame tyrant's speed was comparable to Bibi and Fane, but his attack, even the most powerful of them, Tulili, was far from being his match. If they kept fighting like this, not a single one of the experts present would survive. How can there be so many magma demons? Linley glanced at Desri. From what Desri had said, in total, there should only be 1,000 magma demons here on the 6th floor. Desri glanced at Linley. Linley, 3,000 years ago, we were beaten back as soon as we entered the 6th floor. 1,000 was just our estimate. Linley was speechless. Desri, give me a hand. Linley suddenly took a deep breath and said softly to the nearby Desri. HRM. Desri looked at Linley with surprise. This is my most powerful attack. If it doesn't work, then let's try to come up with a way to flee from the 6th floor. With a flip of his hands, Linley retrieved his adamantine heavy sword. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 18, The Fate-Determining Strike. Most powerful attack. Desri's eyes lit up, and he mentally said, how confident are you? Right now, 70% confident. Linley said. The prerequisite being I have to get near him. Linley stared at the distant flame tyrant. The flame tyrant, upon entering his battle form, had shrunk dramatically in size, and even the rocks making up his body had changed. One could imagine how dramatically the power of the flame tyrant's defense and speed had risen. Right now, the flame tyrant truly was terrifying. But to Linley, this sort of rocky defense was useless against him. If the flame tyrant didn't shrink in size and was still hundreds of meters tall, then the rocks making up his body alone would be nearly 100 meters thick. My profound truths of the earth, after traveling 100 meters, would probably have dropped in power to a fairly low level. It would be hard to destroy that gemstone core. But now, Linley was quite confident in his heart. Now that it is only a few dozen meters tall, the translucent rock should be fairly close to the outside layer of its stone body, perhaps not even 10 meters away. The closer the distance was, the less weakened the waves of the profound truths of the earth would be. At such a close distance, Linley was quite confident in himself. If I can't even kill him in a situation like this, then that flame tyrant should be a deity-level creature. Desri glanced at Linley, his eyes filled with surprise and delight. But right at that moment, the flame tyrant, which had been chatting with them just now, charged at them once again. He bellowed wildly, "Ha ha, puny humans, none of you will survive. All of you will die." As he spoke, he chopped out with his axe yet again. An expert who hadn't managed to dodge in time was chopped directly into two halves. Clay. Linley's face changed. Clay was a very open and valiant man, with extremely powerful defense. His weakness was his speed, but no matter how tough his defense was, it still couldn't withstand a single blow from the flame tyrant. Hurry! Desri, Fane, Rutherford, and Linley all retreated at high speed alongside the other major experts, pulling away from the murdering, bellowing flame tyrant. As they flew, Desri hurriedly spoke mentally to the others. Rosary, Rutherford, Fane, Bibi, Cleo and brothers. The three of you, listen up. Linley has 70% confidence in being able to kill that flame tyrant, but of course, he first has to be able to get close to its body. Desri's voice rang out in the minds of all the other experts. While flying at high speed, Rosary, Rutherford, and Fane all immediately looked at Linley. Linley nodded. Good. I have the energy to just barely be able to force myself to cast one more absolute zero. Rosary spoke back mentally as well. Rosary was also a Grand Mega Saint. Generally speaking, a Grand Mega Saint would only be able to cast a single wide effect forbidden level spell, and even if they had some sort of precious treasure, they would at most be able to cast 2. But Rosary was capable of casting 3, even in an environment such as the 6th floor. And clearly, the power of her spells had been modified and improved. First of all, the area of the Absolute Zero spell had been reduced greatly. It wasn't like how the books had written about it, with an area of dozens of square kilometers. But in terms of single target damage, it clearly was far more powerful as well. We 3 brothers will defend Linley as he heads over towards the flame tyrant's body. One of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions said. Linley and Fane stared in surprise at the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions. You'll be able to take one of his hits. The experts present were all a bit worried. The eldest of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lion, Cleo, snorted. Don't worry. In the past, we 3 brothers, alongside with our father, encountered even more dangerous situations when we were in the Gabados prison. Although the 3 of us haven't gained insight into other things, we have gained quite a bit of insight into life-saving measures. In the Gabados planar prison, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions had continuously struggled to stay alive. For them to be able to survive in that sort of environment was partially due to the protection of their father, Dylan, but their own power was one of the main reasons as well. I can also cast one more forbidden level spell. I hope it will be able to affect the flame tyrant. Desri said. Boss. BB was frantic. BB, no need. Linley knew BB's situation very well. BB's defense was extremely tough, but whether or not BB would be able to take a hit from the flame tyrant was something Linley wasn't certain about. After all, BB hadn't been alive for long enough. Although God Eater rats had their own amazing powers, he hadn't gained insight into most of them yet. While flying at high speed, Desri was occasionally looking back and keeping an eye on the flame tyrant. But suddenly, Desri's face changed, and he let out a fierce, grief-stricken cry. Hayward! A devilish blood-red hatchet cut a swatting blur through the air, and the fleeing fire-style Grand Mega Saint, Hayward, was chopped directly into 2, with the chopped section disappearing into nothingness. Hayward's 2 chopped halves fell down from the air, collapsing into the lava river. No fun. The flame tyrant turned to stare at Linley and the others. It's more interesting dealing with you people. You sure can run. The flame tyrant's body, dozens of meters high, transformed into a red blur, charging straight towards Linley's group. As the flame tyrant charged towards them, it laughed loudly and wildly, ha ha, no matter how you run, you'll still die. Ha ha. Only 11 or 12 of the experts in the group of 20+ experts which Olivier and Hayward had been in were still alive. In a short period of time, more than 10 had perished. Whew. Olivier was hiding next to a boulder, and he secretly let out a relieved sigh. This flame tyrant, Olivier stared at that distant, terrifying red blur and he couldn't help but shake his head toward himself. He was famous for his powerful attacks, but this flame tyrant was his bane. And right now, the flame tyrant was currently chasing after Linley's group. Ha, fleeing is useless. The flame tyrant was laughing loudly, but he only finished half his words. Suddenly, Rosary turned around. Her long jade hair fluttering, she stared coldly at the distant flame tyrant as she extended her hands and pointed towards it. Countless amounts of snow and frost began to descend from nowhere. The extremely hot environment instantly transformed into a world of ice and snow, and the lava once again congealed. The flames around the flame tyrant's body were extinguished, and a layer of ice and frost covered it. Only, the flame tyrant's body continued to be covered by that layer of red light. Water style, forbidden level magic, absolute 0. This technique yet again. The flame tyrant bellowed angrily. This technique is useless against me. Although this spell wasn't very effective, the flame tyrant truly hated it. As a fire-type creature, the flame tyrant truly hated ice and snow. What he liked best was sleeping in the middle of hot lava. The 9 major experts halted in mid-air, with Rosary and Desri in the center. After Rosary finished casting her spell, Desri, who had been mumbling a spell this entire time, pointed one hand at the distant flame tyrant, and a holy aura suddenly descended. The sound of holy chanting could be heard. And dreamlike dots of white light suddenly surrounded the flame tyrant. An angel that was dozens of meters tall suddenly appeared out of nowhere, but its body was hazy and indistinct, as though it were an illusion. Behind the angel were 3 sets of wings. The sudden appearance of this massive angel caused the flame tyrant to be even more enraged. Light style forbidden level magic, angelic descent. This angel wasn't a true angel, rather, it was a manifestation of light style energy, much like the earth style forbidden level spell, world protector. It wasn't a true life form. This sort of creature was very hard to deal with, because it was formed from pure energy. It didn't have any true vital points. The only thing that could be done was to cause it to use up all of its energy. F***ck off. The flame tyrant swung his great axe straight at it. This one blow from the great axe caused the illusionary 6-winged angel's body to shudder, and a good amount of its energy disappeared. What a ferocious axe! Desri's face changed, and with a sudden thought, the illusory 6-winged angel suddenly charged down, not giving the flame tyrant any chance to dodge. All 6 of its wings were spread, and it suddenly clutched tightly around the flame tyrant, preventing the flame tyrant from moving while its 6 wings wrapped around the flame tyrant as well. Explode. Desri softly spat out this single word. Bang. Even the rocky ground of the 6th floor shuddered, and a storm of energy blasted in every direction, breaking apart large amounts of stone. But right in the middle of that energy storm. Let's go. Linley and the 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions transformed into 4 blurs, charging forward. Linley, let us deal with the attack of the flame tyrant. All you need to worry about is taking and killing him. The 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions seemed very reliable and confident. Don't worry. Linley held Blood Violet in one hand and the adamantine heavy sword in the other. The flame tyrant's body wasn't too badly damaged, but suffering 2 forbidden level spell attacks in a row had made the flame tyrant very angry. Bellowing madly, he charged forward once again, but as he did, the flame tyrant suddenly discovered that 4 blurs were already by his side. Detestable. The furious flame tyrant brandished his axe, chopping down. The bloodlust great axe glowed with that blood-red light as it descended, but the 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions' bodies suddenly emitted a black substance, like some sort of form-fitting armor. The strangest part of it was, atop the black armor, there was a layer of dim, multicolored barrier. Bang! The 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions didn't dodge at all, receiving the attack of that bloodlust great axe head-on as one unit. The translucent, multicolored barrier around their bodies caved downwards as the 3 brothers received the blow of the bloodlust great axe, while Linley transformed into a black rainbow as he charged next to the flame tyrant. While charging, Linley struck out with the adamantine heavy sword in his hand. HRMPH the flame tyrant didn't fear Linley's attack in the slightest. In his battle form, his defense was several times greater than it had been originally. He didn't fear any saint-level human experts at all. What he did care about was these 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions. The adamantine heavy sword moved with grace, but it was as fast as lightning. And it struck directly against the chest of the flame tyrant. Clink. A very gentle, soft sound. The previously confident flame tyrant suddenly froze. A strange vibration seemed to completely ignore the defense of his rocky body, and in fact actually caused the countless stones which made up its body to begin to vibrate, as it made its way to his inner core. When the vibrational waves reached the translucent gemstone which was his core, the power of Linley's full force strike suddenly exploded. The fierce, profound power of the Earth's vibrational waves caused that translucent gemstone to instantly begin to crack, and then, boom! The translucent stone completely shattered into countless fragments. Profound truths of the Earth, throbbing pulse of the world, 64 layered waves? Linley's most powerful attack. Rumble, the flame tyrant stared at Linley in disbelief. The fire that had been wrapped around his body was extinguished, and the fire that lit his eyes grew dim as well. His enormous body transformed into countless boulders which began to fall from the sky. With the translucent stone shattered, the flame tyrant's body itself began to crumble. Success! Desri called out, wildly overjoyed. Ha ha, boss, success! Even Bibi began to shout in joy. As for the extremely ashen-faced Rosary, even she revealed a hint of excitement as she smiled. Rutherford and Fane also stared at the distant Linley, hovering in mid-air. It was Linley who had finally killed the flame tyrant and rescued everyone. The king is dead. The dozens of nearby magma demons, seeing this, were completely stupefied. The king whom they all felt to be invincible had been trampling these humans just a few moments ago, but now, he was dead. This axe is so strange. One of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions flew directly downwards. The bloodlust great axe had already shrunk to the size of a human palm, and it had fallen by the side of a lava river. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion grabbed the axe, then flew back up. Linley, this divine artifact is yours. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion offered the dark red hatchet to Linley. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 19, 3 Divine Artifacts. Linley looked at the dark red hatchet. Not long ago, this hatchet was over 100 meters long, but now, it is so tiny. Linley, in his heart, valued this axe very highly. Most importantly, that flame tyrant was only a prime saint level expert, and yet in his hands, this axe was capable of such tremendous power. Linley thought of his own blood violet sword. Both of them are divine artifacts, but in my hands, blood violet is only capable of unleashing a portion of its power. Linley understood that his own blood violet was perhaps an even more terrifying weapon, but at the saint level, he simply wasn't capable of fully unleashing the power of blood violet. It was much the same with the Coiling Dragon ring. The current Linley couldn't actively utilize the Coiling Dragon ring at all. The more powerful an artifact was, the greater the requirements were for activating it. However, this divine artifact axe was something which even saints could use. To a saint, this axe was a better weapon. Linley, take it. You made the greatest contributions in killing the flame tyrant. Desri flew over as well. Linley suddenly thought of Barker, and said, then I won't hesitate. At the same time, Linley accepted the dark red hatchet, storing it into his interspatial ring. I hope Barker survived. If he truly, well, I'll gift this axe to Gates and the others. Linley still felt guilt in his heart towards Barker. The flame tyrant is finally dead. But Hayward and the others, Desri felt extremely miserable right now. Higginson, Olivier, and the rest of the 12 remaining experts flew over from afar. There had originally been over 20 of them. But now, only a few were left. Big brother. Higginson was in great pain as well. Desri and Higginson looked at each other, agony in their eyes. But they understood, ever since they chose to come to the Necropolis of the Gods, they set on a path where they could not blame others if they died. Actually, Hayward had already lived for thousands of years. Dying now wasn't a big deal. After all, These people had already experienced many things in life. Olivier looked at Linley, a hint of a resigned smile on his lips. This Linley saved me yet again. Olivier was a very arrogant person and he hated owing others. But Linley had saved him twice now. Linley, your attack is very unique. Rutherford sighed in amazement. That flame tyrant had incredible defense, but your attack seemed to completely ignore it. Linley didn't try to hide anything. This is an attack which I have gained insight into which can ignore the target's defense. What a bizarre, shocking attack. Fane sighed in amazement as well. The nearby experts all felt their heart shudder. Linley was a dragon blood warrior, and thus his natural talent was at the absolute peak of what humans could reach. But now, Linley's understanding of the laws had reached such a terrifying level as well. Linley was more powerful than others in both aspects. With those aspects combined, it could be said that his attack power was the greatest amongst the saints of the Yulan continent. The number one saint-level expert of the Yulan continent, that is you. Desri sighed approvingly as he looked at Linley. I only possess powerful offense and decent defense. In terms of speed, I cannot compare to you and Fane, Desri. Linley replied honestly. The understandings he had gained in the elemental laws of the wind were still very far from the level of mastery. Right. How is Tulili? Rosary, looking much better now, suddenly said. Let's go see if he is still alive. Right. Fane and Desri nodded as well. Tulili was the prime saint with the most powerful attack of the group, after all. If they wanted to make it further into the necropolis of the gods, they couldn't lack someone like him. Linley and the others immediately flew towards the place where Tulili's body had collapsed and landed next to him. Moments later, next to the boiling hot river of lava, his body covered with blood, Tulili was currently seated cross-legged on a stone. His arms were completely shattered, and even one of his legs had been partially torn off. There was a large amount of fresh blood on his chest. Tulili. Desri flew over. You are lucky to be alive. Tulili, seeing Desri fly over, revealed a bitter smile on his face. I was almost finished just then. Desri, give me a hand, your powers in utilizing healing energy is the best amongst all saints. Desri immediately stretched his hand out and immediately released healing magic. At Desri's level, he was capable of insta-casting light-style magic of the 9th rank. But Olivier, despite also training in the laws of light, was a warrior, after all. His healing abilities were far inferior to Desri's. Rosary, Rutherford, and Fane all landed as well. Tulili looked at the four of them, then said in surprise, Desri, how can you all be so leisurely? Can it be that you killed the flame tyrant? What method did you use to kill him? Tulili was extremely surprised. He had personally witnessed the terrible might of the flame tyrant. It was Linley who killed him. Rosary said, while pointing at the distant Linley, who was still in mid-air. Tulili raised his head and glanced at Linley. Linley. Right. All by himself, he landed one sword against the body of the flame tyrant, and then the flame tyrant died. Desri sighed in praise. In terms of attack power, Linley has to now be ranked number 1 amongst the saints of the Yulan continent. Soon, Tulili's injuries were completely healed. That exit to the 7th floor is in the center, where the magma demons are clustering. The most powerful group of saints in the Yulan continent flew directly towards the center of the 6th floor. Indeed, there were a large number of magma demons clustering here. That Draconian is coming. Flee, quick. Seeing Linley, the many magma demons were so terrified that they immediately fled. Yet again, they call me a Draconian. Linley shook his head and sighed, while BB snickered, boss, those fellows have no experience. They don't know what a dragon blood warrior is. They only know about the relatively common Draconian race which lives in the other realms. Compared to your dragon blood warrior lineage, boss, those Draconians are far weaker. As they spoke, the many experts landed. There was no need to fight. Linley's prestige from being the slayer of the flame tyrant had caused the many magma demons scurrying everywhere in terror. The exit. The experts immediately saw the nearby stairway. They were now in the heart of the volcano, and the stairways here emanated with a black aura. This was the exit to the 7th floor. Hey, what's that? BB flew over. Next to stairway, there were two weapons there. One of the two weapons was a blood-red scimitar, while the other one was a magi staff. The magi staff was topped with a large gemstone, and the powerful energy coursing through it filled Linley with awe. Two divine artifacts. Desri said in astonishment, and Fane and Tulali were both shocked and delighted as well. Two divine artifacts. Linley was somewhat surprised. But then, Linley instantly understood. Lord Beirut had previously said that only on the 11th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods would divine sparks appear, and that the first 10 floors wouldn't have any divine sparks. However, the first 10 floors might have divine artifacts. This is the Necropolis of the Gods. Many deities have died here. It is normal that they left behind some divine artifacts. Linley knew very well that divine artifacts weren't nearly as valuable as divine sparks. The 6th floor was so hard to defeat that for there to be a total of 3 divine artifacts here wasn't too strange, actually. There are 2 more divine artifacts here. How should we divide them? BB stood next to the divine artifacts and said in a loud voice. This. Everyone was silent. Many people turned to look at Linley. On the 6th floor, the person who had truly rendered the greatest merit was Linley. But of course, Rosary and the 6-eyed golden Ni lions had contributed as well. In terms of dividing up the divine artifacts, only people who had contributed should be awarded the divine artifacts. Linley didn't say anything. He had already taken one of them. If he took too many, others would feel unhappy as well. Everyone, let me take this scimitar. I won't take any of the other divine artifacts that appear in the higher floors. In addition, consider this as me, Tulali, owing all of you a favor. Tulali said with sincerity. This scimitar truly is the type of weapon which I like the most. Scimitar. The warriors of the Great Plains to the Far East commonly used scimitars, and Tulali himself had reached an extremely high level of skill in using them. Only, at Tulali's level, ordinary good weapons weren't as effective as Tulali's fists. However, divine artifacts were different. Divine artifacts were usually wielded by deities, and from this, one could imagine how powerful they were. Linley, what do you say? Fane and Desri looked at Linley. Tulali also looked hopefully towards Linley. Truthfully speaking, Tulali rarely was so nervous, but he truly was worried right now that Linley would refuse. If Linley didn't agree, there was nothing he could do. After all, on the 6th floor, Linley had essentially saved his life. I have no objections. Linley smiled as he spoke. Although Tulali was at a very high level of enlightenment, he still felt a strong surge of excitement in his heart. Linley, thank you. Tulali said solemnly towards Linley. Tulali wasn't a very good talker, but these 2 words, thank you, included boundless gratitude. With Linley having no objection, Rosary naturally had no objection either. As for the others, none of them were qualified to object. Tulali immediately grabbed the blood scimitar. With this scimitar, my power will multiply several times over. Tulali was boundlessly excited. All right, the scimitar has been distributed. The Magi staff. BB pointed at the Magi staff. Boss, Delia needs a Magi staff, right? BB said. Rosary, a grand mega saint, had wanted to claim this divine artifact of a Magi staff for herself, but hearing BB's words, she no longer could speak. Linley was paying attention to the look on Rosary's face. There will be divine artifacts on the 7th and the 8th floors as well. And it's hard to say whether Delia will need a divine artifact or not. Linley said mentally to Bibi. He wasn't a person who couldn't see the big picture. He immediately laughed and said, "It is better if we make immediate use of this divine artifact. That way, we have a better chance of surviving in the higher floors." Linley looked at Rosary and Desri. "Rosary, Desri, the two of you are grand mega saints. You two decide who this divine artifact will go to." "Rosary, you take it," Desri immediately said. On the 6th floor, the various experts would prepare for roughly a month, and Rosary and Tulili grew accustomed to their new divine artifacts as well. The first group of 10 major experts all remained here on the 6th floor, while only 3 of the experts in the second group remained. The others had all given up and returned to the 5th floor. One of the 3 experts remaining in the second group was Olivier. Higginson had given up. Clearly, Hayward's death had negatively impacted him quite a bit. After all, the upcoming 7th, 8th, and 9th floors would not be any less dangerous than the 6th floor. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Next to the flowing river of lava, Desri spoke out. "Let's go." Linley, Tulili, Rosary, Fane, Rutherford, Olivier, and the others all rose to their feet. Everyone had reached their peak condition over the course of this month. Including Oliver's group of 3, the 13 experts continued up into the stairway to the next floor. Necropolis of the Gods, Floor 7. Wuyo. As soon as the 13 experts of the Yulan continent entered the 7th floor, they felt a breeze. How comfortable. Linley's lips had a hint of a smile about them. Compared to the scorching hot environment of the 6th floor, the environment of the 7th floor was much better. The 7th floor was a desert world, but Linley and the others had entered an oasis amongst the desert. This oasis was extremely large, at least 10 square kilometers in size. The 13 experts carefully inspected their surroundings, all of them on their guard. "There's water in the distance." Bibi saw the lake in the middle of the oasis, and couldn't help but feel excited. "Hey? What's going on with the plants in this place? Why is the grass here so sharp?" Desri frowned as he spoke. Suddenly, the oasis suddenly moved, and tens of thousands of tendrils of vegetation rose into the sky, as this oasis of 10 square kilometers in size suddenly enveloped all of the experts within. Linley, as well, was suddenly trapped in this prison of countless blades of grass and leaves. Not good. Linley's face changed dramatically, and a devilish flash of violet light suddenly flashed out in his hand. "Ah!" A miserable scream split the air from afar. In the blink of an eye, another expert had been heavily injured or killed. Who knew which of the 13 it was? Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 20, The Magical Beasts in Action. The thick, dense grass had completely surrounded Linley in an airtight seal, and the surrounding grass and leaves were gurgling. The grass tendrils were wildly squeezing down, and in the blink of an eye, the pressure was so great that Linley's face began to change color. The strength of this pressure alone would instantly crush most saints into meat pulp. Linley said to himself. This plant life form is dozens of times more formidable than the plant life form on the second floor. Linley didn't dare to waste any time. Break. Blood violet in his hands flashed. Wherever blood violet passed by, space-time froze and then folded over itself, and a spatial blade appeared at the blade of the weapon. Although the grass tendrils were tens of times more durable than the vines of the plant life form of the second floor, in front of blood violet, they were still chopped open as easily as pieces of cloth. Bang! The shattered pieces of grass and tendrils exploded everywhere, and Linley shot out of the prison of dense grass like an arrow. "Boss, I'm fine." A tunnel suddenly appeared in another distant ball of grass, and then Bibi, his entire body covered with black light, flew out at high speed. "Bibi, what technique is this?" Linley felt joy in his heart. "I'm a deity-level magical beast, the God Ader Rat." Bibi raised his little head proudly, but then Bibi noticed the scene not too far away. A large amount of grass had formed a massive ball, clearly surrounding a person, and within that massive ball of grass, a faint hint of white light could be seen. Boss. Desri's not looking so good. BB instantly recognized that it was Desri who was radiating that white light. Linley had noticed as well. Without hesitating at all, he immediately flew over there while sending out his spiritual energy to scout the situation inside. He clearly saw that inside, Desri's body was covered with a faintly glowing armor of light that was protecting his entire body, while many white arrows of light were attacking the grass surrounding him wildly. Unfortunately, the grass tendrils were simply too durable. Swish! Blood violet flew out and multiple rays of violet light flashed past the grass, chopping them apart. Desri escaped from his prison. Upon seeing it was Linley, he immediately said, "Thanks. That grass monster really was tough. Even my instacast spells of the 9th rank weren't able to break through it. Without your help, it really would have been problematic." A red light suddenly flashed by, and grass flew everywhere. Tulili, wielding that divine artifact, the blood-red scimitar, flew out and into the skies. With this scimitar, Tulili was like a tiger who had been given wings. Tulili even roared angrily, "Who is it? Don't skulk around. If you have any ability, come and fight us openly." Bang! Yet another ball of grass exploded, and Rutherford, his entire body covered with blue light, escaped from his imprisonment as well. One expert after another escaped. However, at present, Oliver's situation was quite dire. Just now, surrounded and crushed by those countless tendrils of grass, Olivier didn't have the chance to react at all. And he suddenly discovered. All of the blades of grass crushing him suddenly began to grind against him at high speed. These grass tendrils all had extremely sharp edges, and this constant high-speed grinding, made these grass tendrils constantly slice against his body like sharp fangs, or a sawtooth which a farmer might use to plow the earth. In the blink of an eye, Oliver's body was sliced open. HRMPH Oliver's eyes turned cold. Swish! A brilliant light flashed, and shattered bits of grass flew everywhere. His long, flowing hair colored both black and white, and with that black icy sword in his hands, Olivier flew into the air. Only, Oliver's body had a hint of blood on it. Olivier was secretly shocked. What a fierce saw! The 13 experts floated there in mid-air. Desri looked around him, then let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, no one died. Olivier glanced at a nearby saint. This human saint's waist already had a huge wound around the waist. Karasa Kalo Sa, that really was quite dangerous. You almost lost your life. That man named Karasa let out an exhausted breath as well. Very nearly. That creature's teeth were simply too fierce. If I had been slightly slower in reacting, those grass tendrils probably would have plunged into my body. Plunged into your body. Linley and Fane, upon hearing this, couldn't help but feel shocked. If the grass tendrils were to enter one's body, most likely they would ravage the internal organs almost instantly. Don't move. Desri flew to one of the human experts, executing healing magic on him. This Karasa was one of the 3 experts in the second group. The 3 experts in that second group consisted of 2 humans, Karasa and Olivier, and 1 magical beast, a black-scale scorpion king. Black-scale scorpions were generally beasts of the 9th rank. But this black-scale scorpion king had trained to the peak saint level, which was quite incredible and rare. I hate encountering these plant life forms. Linley lowered his head, studying the area around him. The area below was covered in sand. The previous oasis had already completely disappeared, leaving behind only some tendrils of shattered grass. Linley had earlier witnessed with his own eyes those undamaged tendrils of grass sink down into the sand and disappear. Let's go. Desri said. If that plant creature doesn't bother us again, let's not waste the time to deal with it either. The most important thing right now is to find the entrance to the 8th floor. Let's go. Linley and the others all nodded. The 13 experts didn't pay any more attention to that plant creature, quickly flying away and beginning their search in the boundless desert. Yet another oasis up ahead. Fane frowned and shouted loudly. Linley took a close look. Indeed, in the distance, there was a hazy hint of green. Upon flying a bit closer to it, everyone could clearly see that it was indeed a massive oasis. After the previous experience, however, nobody would be incautious again. Let's not get too close. Rosary shook her head. Let's stay farther away from it. That monster is very hard to deal with. Everyone agreed, and the group intentionally made their way around the oasis. But after Linley's group flew away in another direction, that green oasis actually sank down into the sand, while the sand itself began to tremble slightly. The direction the vibrations in the sand were heading, at high speed, was, quite coincidentally, the direction in which Linley's group were flying. HRM. The black-scale Scorpion King, at the very back of the line, glanced downwards and then immediately shouted in warning, "Everyone, be careful. That monster is currently hurrying towards us at high speed from below the sand." In the mountain range of magical beasts would often launch ambushes from below. As a saint-level magical beast, the black-scale scorpion was quite familiar with this type of attack. That really does seem to be the case. Linley, Fane, Tulili, and the others all halted in mid-air, staring below. If one looked carefully, one would be able to see that on the surface of the sand, there were one or two barely noticeable tendrils of grass. This sort of plant creature could use all of the grass as its eyes. Wherever the grass could see, it could see as well. What should we do? Linley, Desri, and the others looked at each other. To kill this plant creature was very troublesome, but how could they just allow it to follow in such a sinister manner? Swoosh! Swoosh! Like two sharp arrows, two long tendrils of green grass suddenly shot out from beneath the sand, wrapping themselves around Desri's legs in almost the same instant. These two tendrils of grass were as thick as a man's arm, and there were a large number of smaller blades of grass on top of them as well. In an instant, they surrounded Desri. Swish! They suddenly pulled downwards, hard. The two tendrils of grass had shot out at simply too fast a pace. Shooting out, wrapping around, pulling down. In the blink of an eye, Desri was pulled down. Desri let out a furious roar, while at the same time, sending a wild mind storm towards the below area. Not good. The faces of Linley and the others changed, and they immediately chased downwards as well. Thud, Desri was pulled directly into the sand, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from everyone's field of vision. The surface of the sand looked so ordinary, as though nothing had happened. "Go down!" Bibi shouted loudly. Bibi, the three six-eyed golden Ni lions, the black-scale scorpion didn't hesitate at all. The five magical beasts shrank in size rapidly while charging down into the desert. It was very troublesome to dig when one was physically large. Compared to magical beasts, human experts definitely weren't as fast when they tunneled through the ground. Fane, Rosary, Tulili, and the rest of the seven waited there in mid-air, not knowing what to do. Right now, we can only place our hopes on Bibi and the others. Hopefully, they'll be able to rescue Desri. Linley himself wasn't able to do anything. If he entered the sand, first of all, his digging speed would be lowered by half, and he simply wouldn't be able to chase down the plant creature. That grass monster's tendrils are simply too fast. They move like an expert wielding a sword. Tulili was frowning. In a flash, they wrapped around Desri's legs. In addition, just then, Desri utilized a spiritual attack, but it seemed to not have any effect. It's impossible for it to have any effect. Linley shook his head. That monster's body was as large as the oasis itself, 10 square kilometers. Just now, only its tendrils were revealed. Its main body is most likely many kilometers away from us. Desri wasn't certain where the monster's body was. For him to just wildly cast his spiritual energy without knowing where to aim, it would be impressive if he was able to harm it at all. Olivier let out a cold sneer. That Desri was looking to be killed. Why would you say such a thing? Fane and the others looked unhappily at Olivier. Olivier glanced at them, then said calmly, the necropolis of the gods has countless creatures here, and the techniques one would use against humans aren't necessarily suitable. This Desri is just a grand mega saint. When faced with a sudden attack, at most he would be able to instacast a spell. But how powerful could the spells he is capable of instacasting be? Against these sorts of monsters, those spells don't pose a threat at all. And yet, he still came to the necropolis of the gods. Isn't that looking to be killed? What sort of talk is this? Rosary was somewhat unhappy. Grand mega saints are poor at close combat, but upon reaching the deity level and upon gaining their divine body, they will naturally have their deficiencies in close combat addressed. Fane said. But Linley actually felt that Oliver's words made some sense. Grand mega saints were indeed weak when facing sudden attacks. So, Olivier said calmly, after becoming a deity, one will indeed be transformed and gain a divine body. Divine bodies are extremely powerful and suited for close combat. Olivier laughed mockingly, but then, why wait until becoming a deity? Can't a grand mega saint, upon reaching the saint level, spend a little bit of time and effort on his close combat skills? To the likes of Desri, a few hundred years is nothing much. To have a grand mega saint become a warrior saint as well? Do you think it's as easy as that? Fane frowned as he spoke. Enough. Linley said. Enough talk. Everyone has their own opinions. Linley's face suddenly had a look of delight on it. Excellent. That creature has been dragged out. Dragged out. Everyone was surprised and delighted, immediately looking downwards. The sand below began to rumble, and then rose up. Finally, with a boom sound, sand exploded everywhere, and the first one to fly out was Desri. Desri's body was covered with blood stains, and his face was rather pale. Upon seeing Linley and the others, he still let out a chuckle. That was really dangerous. Boss, we're coming. Bibi's voice rang out. And then, Bibi also emerged from the sands, while in Bibi's claws there was a thick tendril of grass, the thickness of a man's arm. Using the thick tendril of grass, he actually dragged out the monster from below, and an enormous creature appeared in front of everyone. This was a creature at least 10 stories high, and its entire body was covered by thick, earthen yellow tendrils of grass roots, at least the size of a house. The grass roots surrounding the monster's body were only 100 meters long at most. Clearly, all of the longer grass tendrils had already been broken off. Bibi dragged the monster up, while below came the 3 six-eyed golden eye lions and the black scale scorpion. This fellow still wants to flee? Geez, Bibi, holding that tendril in his hands, easily spun the massive creature a few times in mid-air, as though it were a giant windmill. Boss, I thought it would be very powerful, but I didn't expect it to be as soft as a persimmon. Boss, how do you want to deal with this monster? Your call. The black scale scorpion flew over as well. This fellow really was nothing special. It only knew those 2 or 3 attacks. When we drew near it, it was finished. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 21, The Queen Mother, Lachapel. Don't kill me. A gravelly, terrified voice rang out. The monster, which had been spun around like a windmill, suddenly came to a halt. Bibi dangled it there by one of its tendrils and shouted at it, "What, are you afraid now?" Too late. Boss, we're going to kill this monster anyhow. Lemme just take care of it now. Linley nodded slightly, and Desri and the others didn't say anything. Just then, This monster clearly wanted to kill Desri. How would they so easily spare it? Halt! The huge maw of the monster howled fiercely. Bibi chortled twice, looking at the monster. Halt! Are you afraid to die? Bibi, stop wasting your breath on it. Linley spoke. You can't kill me. If you kill me, you will all die. The monster roared in its gravelly voice. Linley, Desri, Fane, and the others all looked at each other, and then glanced with amusement at this already captured plant life form. Fane laughed loudly. If we kill you, we'll all die. Go on and tell us, how will you kill us? Only now did the monster let out a sigh of relief. Seeing the attitude of these people, it came to a decision, and it sounded out with its hoarse voice, if you kill me, I myself will not be able to seek revenge. But, you need to understand that in this 7th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, I'm not the only one of my kind here, right? Linley frowned. On the 6th floor, they had encountered the Flame Tyrant, and many people had died there. Killing the Flame Tyrant had been an extremely dangerous task. The danger of this 7th floor shouldn't be lower than that of the 6th. It wouldn't be as simple as just disposing of this plant creature. Speak. Fane frowned as he barked at it. The experts all looked at the monster. On the 7th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, I am only an ordinary creature. The truly powerful creature here is the Queen Mother. The monster's voice had a hint of arrogance in it. I urge you to let me go. If you kill me, the Queen Mother will definitely slaughter you all. The Queen Mother? Linley frowned in puzzlement. One of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions explained to the other people present, in the other planes, there are some special life forms that are divided into a mother component and child components. Those child components are given birth to by the mother component, and the power of the mother is hundreds of times that of the children. Actually, the hornet-type magical beasts are a good example of this. Each clan has just one Queen Mother, and the other magical beasts are all her children. Mother component? Child component? Queen Mother? Linley and the others were all secretly surprised. If this was the case, then the power of the Queen Mother would be far greater than that of its children. Right. The relationship between myself and the Queen Mother is the relationship between a mother component and a child component. The monster immediately said. You had best release me. If you kill me, the Queen Mother will definitely sense it, and at that time, you will have incurred the Queen Mother's wrath. You will definitely die. The monster seemed very self-confident. The power of the Queen Mother wasn't something which it, a child component, could compare with. What should we do? Desri looked at Linley and asked him. Amongst this group, Linley's status had slowly risen, especially after his performance in the 6th floor. After all, his power was clearly greater than that of everyone else. In addition, Tulili and the others had been assisted by Linley. To kill, or not to kill? Linley hesitated a bit as well. He couldn't tell if this creature was telling the truth or not. Whoosh! A sudden gust of wind. One of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions charged at the monster, while at the same time, its body dramatically increased to the size of a titanic dragon. Its scaly, gold fur-covered sharp claws also reached several meters in thickness, and its thick, massive claws ripped viciously down at the creature. The monster couldn't help but want to let out a scream of terror. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion's 6 eyes simultaneously sent out rays of black light, and as soon as the 6 rays of light enveloped the monster was no longer able to move. Bang! The sharp claws, carrying a faint, space-ripping power, slashed down on the monster's body, pausing only slightly while cutting through it. And then, like a vase being shattered into pieces, the monster's body exploded into 4 or 5 fragments, with green liquid flowing forth. Although describing it took some time, in truth, this happened in the blink of an eye. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion had killed the monster in a twinkling. Why did you kill him? Rosarie's eyes, flashing with a faint green light, stared at the six-eyed golden Ni lion. She asked coldly, "Aren't you afraid of drawing the attention of the Queen Mother? If you don't want to be killed by the Queen Mother, then follow me." The six-eyed golden Ni lion didn't explain anything, immediately flying towards a certain direction. The other two six-eyed golden Ni lions immediately followed. Linley, Desri, and the others were puzzled. But they still followed and flew behind them. After flying for roughly 100 kilometers, the three six-eyed golden Ni lions came to a stop. "What is going on?" Linley asked. "We killed him, so the Queen Mother would probably chase after us," Rutherford said with a frown. The leader of the six-eyed golden Ni lions laughed, revealing its fangs as it grinned. "You people are really stupid. That monster said a few words, and you really believed it? Just one or two words made you afraid to kill it?" The other two six-eyed golden Ni lions had laughter in their eyes as well. The three six-eyed golden Ni lions had been alongside Dylan for countless years, and the amount of experience they had, the likes of Linley and the others could not possibly match. What? Can it be that what the monster was saying about it being a child component and there being a Queen Mother on the 7th floor was a lie? Fane asked. No, that part should be true. The six-eyed golden Ni lion nodded its great head. That sort of plant life form, we three brothers have encountered before in the Gabados planar prison. Plant-type creatures generally do have queen mothers, and the power of the queen mother is indeed hundreds of times greater than that of its children. And yet you still killed it? Karasa frowned. Linley was puzzled as well. The six-eyed golden Ni lion snorted. You don't even understand this? This queen mother can give birth to hundreds on thousands of child components. To the Queen Mother, its children are nothing more than little soldiers. Have you ever seen an emperor who immediately went to seek revenge for the sake of the death of a single soldier? The black-scale scorpion also rumbled, amongst the hornet-type magical beasts, the deaths of ordinary soldiers is indeed paid little attention to by the Queen Mothers. That's just the first reason. The second reason is, it would be good if the Queen Mother chases after us. The six-eyed golden Ni lion said. HRM. Everyone was puzzled. Why was it good for the Queen Mother to chase after them? The other six-eyed golden Ni lion said, remember the 6th floor? At first, the flame tyrant was next to the corridor, but after leaving, it ordered the 1,000+ magma demons to block up the tunnel. Same logic. Their responsibility is to prevent us from leaving. I expect that the Queen Mother should be next to the exit to the 8th floor. Right. Fane nodded. This logic was very simple. Only, the experts present hadn't thought of it. Would killing one of her child components make the Queen Mother leave the tunnel? What a joke. If she truly left, we would actually be able to seize the opportunity to find the tunnel and immediately enter the 8th floor. The six-eyed golden Ni lion licked its lips. Let's keep looking for the tunnel. However, while searching for the tunnel, it's best to be careful. You cannot compare the child monster to its Queen Mother. All of them knew this to be true, and they immediately went to look for the monster. None of them dared to be rash. After all, the Queen Mother was here, somewhere. The creator of this necropolis of the gods has really spent quite a bit of effort. Linley, while flying in search of the tunnel, had to sigh inwardly with praise. Linley had never seen the likes of the flame tyrant or these plant creatures. But if it truly was developed by a sovereign, then perhaps he would only need to have his subordinates go search for these strange, unique races and bring them here. Linley sighed in his heart. They continued searching. This desert world was extremely vast, and each time, before flying too far, they would see some oases from afar. They weren't afraid, and they would immediately fly over to see if there were any tunnels near the oases. If the oases transformed into a monster to attack them, then, the 5 magical beasts would immediately go kill the monster. After a long time, The wind blew across the desert world, whirling the sand high in the air, some dunes rising while other places sinking down. Along with the gust of wind, rustle, a large amount of sand rolled about, revealing a black rocky wall. Look! That seems to be the exit. Fane pointed excitedly off into the distance, and everyone saw it as well. Everyone here had excellent vision. That black rock wall, in the yellow desert, stood out very much. That is definitely the tunnel. Linley and the others immediately flew over. Whoosh! Linley summoned a gust of wild wind which immediately landed against the stone wall, blowing the sand on it off into the distance, instantly revealing the full edifice that had been covered by the sand. This was a black, pyramid-like structure. Beneath the black pyramid, there was a 10-meter tall set of stairs, and the faint black glow let everyone here know that they had found the right place. This sort of black glowing stairway was the symbol of the exit. Rumble! Suddenly, countless vines and tendrils of grass erupted from around the tunnel beneath the black pyramid. In virtually the blink of an eye, the entire black pyramid was covered by countless rattans and grass tendrils, and even the exit tunnel was completely sealed off airtight. With the black pyramid at the center, within an area of 100 square kilometers, countless rattans and grass vines rose up towards the sky. Linley and the others felt their hearts tremble, and they immediately flew back and flew higher. Ha ha! A clear voice rang out from below, and then from within the countless vines and grass tendrils, an enormous green light charged upwards into the sky, then came to a halt in mid-air. The green female creature stood there in mid-air. She was fully 10 meters tall, but her body was covered with countless intersecting vines and tendrils of grass. At the same time, in the area around her body, there were countless vines and roots that were nearly 1,000 meters long. Her tendrils and vines were clearly different from those of the child components. This was because the countless tendrils and vines around her were so green that they seemed nearly translucent. It was as though they weren't plants, but were a type of soft, translucent gem-like material. It was an extremely strange thing. It's been so long since an outsider has come. The green female laughed as she spoke. This period of time has been so boring. Humans. Oh, what beautiful bodies. I like human bodies. Oh. Before that, let me introduce myself first. The green female creature swept everyone with her gaze. I am La Chapelle. You can address me as the Queen Mother. As we thought. Linley and the others grew still more cautious. Linley and the others carefully inspected this La Chapelle. La Chapelle's tendrils were a soft green color, like a gemstones. Just from appearance alone. They were far larger than the tendrils of the child components as well. La Chapelle. One of the six-eyed golden lions said in its loud voice. I trust you have encountered other outsiders here before as well, and won't necessarily want to make trouble for us. I hope you can allow us into the tunnel, as otherwise, if we fight all out against you, I think you won't have a good time of it either. The Queen Mother, La Chapelle, stared at the three six-eyed golden lions. Oh, threatening me. How intriguing. Then let me see if you have that level of ability. While she was still speaking, suddenly. Swish. The Queen Mother, La Chapelle, suddenly charged into the sky, shortening the distance between her and Linley. Retreat. Linley and the others immediately retreated back at high speed, not hesitating at all. But the countless rattans and tendrils of the Queen Mother, La Chapelle, shot out like sharp arrows at the same time. As Linley was retreating, he hadn't paid attention to his back, but he suddenly realized that the thousands of tendrils and rattans which Queen Mother La Chapelle had shot out weren't attacking in a wild, unorganized way. These rattans were actually attacking in accordance with some sort of strange profoundness. Spatial freezing. Linley discovered, to his astonishment, that it was as though space had suddenly frozen. But of course, it hadn't truly frozen, only, Linley and the others felt as though they had fallen into a pit of mud, and even flying became extremely arduous. Swish! Suddenly, the countless tendrils instantly surrounded Rutherford and Karasa. Rutherford and Karasa were a bit slower in terms of flying speed compared to the others, and thus were directly surrounded by the countless vines. The countless vines and rattans immediately began to contract. Squelch! Countless amounts of blood leaked out from the cracks between the constricting rattans and vines, and then they were quickly absorbed into the rattans and vines. Rutherford and Karasa are dead. The faces of the fleeing Linley and the other fleeing experts changed dramatically. Even someone as powerful as Rutherford, one of the 5 prime saints, had instantly been killed after being surrounded, without even being able to resist. The countless constricting vines and rattans once more began to dance, but not even the bones of Rutherford and Karasa remained. Mmm. So tasty. The dark green eyes of the Queen Mother, La Chapelle, still stared at the distant, hurriedly fleeing Linley and the others. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 22, Regrowth. The Queen Mother, La Chapelle, had the face of an angel, but her actions were that of a devil's. Children, keep a tight watch on this exit. As long as a single one of you remains alive, you cannot permit them to enter. The voice of the Queen Mother, La Chapelle, shook the heavens, and instantly, a large number of noises could be heard in the ground below the sand. Countless tendrils and vines erupted forth from beneath the sand, and the black pyramid structure was covered by 3 layers on the inside and 3 layers on the outside by the tendrils. La Chapelle's lips curved upward slightly, and then with a swish, the air around her suddenly began to tremble. The Queen Mother, La Chapelle, transformed into a streak of green light, chasing after Linley's group at high speed. It had to be said that La Chapelle's speed was simply too fast. In but a short while, Linley's group discovered that La Chapelle was behind them in hot pursuit. Quick, quick! Each person in Linley's group were exerting themselves to fly at their utmost speeds. Rutherford and Karasa, 2 powerful experts, were killed and devoured in the blink of an eye. The power of this Queen Mother is simply terrifying. Linley felt his heart clench as well. Before, when BB had captured that child component plant, although it had also been able to surround everyone, not a single person had died. In particular, the likes of Linley and Fane hadn't even been injured. The difference between the child and the mother was simply too great. Boss, be careful. BB's voice suddenly rang out in Linley's consciousness, and Linley immediately looked backwards. He saw a green, semi-translucent tendril the thickness of an arm shoot towards him through space at high speed like a sharp arrow. Linley's speed was only considered below average amongst the 11 remaining experts. Break. Linley delivered a backhanded chop with Blood Violet, and Blood Violet carried with it its devilish violet flashes of light, causing space to suddenly distort as it chopped down against the semi-translucent tendrils. Profound Truths of the Wind, Tempos of the Wind, Level 2. Linley had a feeling, much like how, when he was young, he had tried to use a hatchet to chop down a tree. Bang! Blood Violet sank into the tendril, but Linley's full-strength blow had only been able to cut 80% of the way through this arm-thick tendril. At the same time, Linley suddenly sensed a tightness around his waist. That tendril had already wrapped itself around Linley. It didn't break. Linley was amazed. Linley knew exactly how powerful this full-force sword attack of his was. But a single tendril of this Queen Mother, La Chapelle, had reached such a terrifying level. Linley didn't think anything else, and immediately the blood-violet flexible sword in his hand began to tremble. Profound Truths of the Wind, Rippling Wind. In almost an instant, the blood-violet sword that had already sank into the tendril trembled more than 10,000 times, sawing straight through the remaining 20% of the tendril. But as Linley was chopping off this first tendril, his speed was impacted, and instantly, hundreds of tendrils swept towards Linley, seeking to surround him. Linley's face instantly turned absolutely pale. A single tendril was already so hard to break, but hundreds. Those hundreds of tendrils surrounded around Linley in the blink of an eye, and those people who were fleeing ahead of them felt their hearts tremble. This had happened once already, not too long ago. Rutherford and Carassa had been surrounded by these tendrils, and the result was, not even their bones were left. Linley was the expert with the most powerful attack in this group. If even Linley were to die, what could the rest of them do? Boss! BB called out in terror, and at the same time, ignoring the danger, he immediately turned and charged back towards Linley. Swish! BB transformed into a black ray of light as he flew at high speed. In the same instant those hundreds of tendrils surrounded him. In Linley's other hand suddenly appeared the adamantine heavy sword. Linley now had the adamantine heavy sword in his right hand and blood violet in his left. The adamantine heavy sword floated down with seeming grace, but in truth, it had shot out as fast as lightning. Profound truths of the earth, throbbing pulse of the world, 64 layered waves? The time had come for him to go all out. Break for me. Linley's face was extremely ferocious. Linley was entirely surrounded by tendrils, and in the space in front of him alone, there were dozens of tendrils blocking him from going forward, trapping him within their net. The dozens of tendrils struck by the adamantine heavy sword all shuddered, but the soft, pliable, yet tough tendrils were extremely resilient against vibrational forces. Despite Linley attacking at full strength with his throbbing pulse of the world, 64 layered waves, only 10 or so tendrils in the path of the adamantine heavy sword transformed into splinters, while the other 10 tendrils remained. Swish! A devilish violet light chopped out, and the dozens of tendrils in front, almost as though they had become brittle, were chopped through by blood violet. Swoosh! Linley immediately seized the opportunity to fly out from the hole he had created. Boss! BB immediately flew over. Quick, onto my back. BB had transformed his size to become larger, and without hesitating at all, Linley directly leapt onto BB's back, and BB's speed immediately increased dramatically. BB, Desri, and Fane were the fastest in the group, and now that BB was moving at maximum speed, he quickly escaped the tendrils behind them. Whew! Only now did Linley let out a long sigh. Just then, the feeling of being surrounded by hundreds of tendrils really was akin to the feeling of the end coming. For the sake of chasing after Linley, the Queen Mother, La Chapelle, had lost ground on the others. In addition, after witnessing Linley's dangerous situation, the others had learned to be smarter. Quick, Olivier, onto my back. A six-eyed golden Ani lion shouted, while the other six-eyed golden Ani lion barked the same to the nearby rosary. Amongst these experts, the fastest were BB, Fane, and Desri, and after them were the three six-eyed golden Ani lion, Tulili, and the black scale scorpion. As for Linley, Olivier, and Rosary, they were slightly slower. Both Olivier, who trained in the elemental laws of light, and Linley, who trained in the elemental laws of the wind, were all extremely fast. In addition, Olivier combined both darkness and light, while Linley was a dragon blood warrior, but compared to the likes of BB, Fane, Tulili, and the six-eyed golden Ani lions, the two were still slower. This black scale scorpion is really fast as well. One of the six-eyed golden Ani lions said casually while flying. The black scale scorpion was of a race that normally was of the 9th rank. It was already quite incredible for this black scale scorpion to reach the peak saint stage. For his speed to be so fast as well, truly was amazing. The 11 experts fled at high speed, and in the end, the Queen Mother, La Chapelle, finally gave up. Just now, that human youngster's sword was quite strange. The Queen Mother La Chapelle stared as Linley's group disappeared beyond the horizons. With but a single sword, he broke over 10 of my tendrils, but the most amazing thing is, although the other dozens of tendrils his sword passed by didn't shatter, they were damaged so severely that they only had a tenth of their usual strength. Wu. Let's take a rest. Desri said. The 11 experts didn't dare land on the desert, and so they halted in mid-air. Clearly, that La Chapelle had truly terrified this group of people. This Queen Mother is simply too much of a monster. Fane said with a frown. Even Rutherford and Carassa were killed in an instant, and just then, when she chased after us, I felt extremely nervous. Everyone was resting right now. When they were fleeing earlier, they hadn't dared to be the slightest bit incautious. Linley, I saw that Queen Mother attack you. What do you think? Tullali looked at Linley. Linley's face was rather ugly to look at. That scene earlier had been way too dangerous. Linley shook his head and said solemnly, this Queen Mother is far more dangerous than the Flame Tyrant. When I attacked it with Blood Violet just now, my full force blow wasn't able to break through that tendril. This, you must understand, there were thousands on thousands of these tendrils. It didn't break under your full force blow. The faces of all the experts changed. Everyone knew how strong the Dragon Blood Warriors were. Despite combining that with the profound truths of the wind, Linley still hadn't been able to break through the tendril with a single blow. One could imagine how tough that tendril was. Afterwards, when the tendril surrounded you, Linley, we were all very worried. How did you manage to break out? Given the toughness of those tendrils, it must have been extremely difficult. Desri asked, and all the nearby experts looked at Linley. Right now, experience was very important. Rutherford and Carassa, who had also been surrounded by the Queen Mother's tendrils, were both dead. Only Linley had escaped. My escape was an extremely risky one. Linley admitted it openly. A large number of tendrils had surrounded me, and in that sort of situation, I had to go all out. Linley's face had a hint of bitter laughter on it. So I immediately used the adamantine heavy sword, combining both swords in my attack. I first used the adamantine heavy sword to utilize the profound truths of the earth, the same blow which killed the Flame Tyrant. Linley shook his head. My most powerful sword blow was only enough to destroy 10 or so tendrils. But the strange thing was, when I followed it up with Blood Violet, I was instantly able to easily break through dozens of tendrils, and then I seized the opportunity to charge out. Linley said. Earlier, when Linley had first used only Blood Violet to chop at that tendril, he hadn't been able to break through it despite striking with full force. But this time, he was able to chop through dozens. How is that possible? The others were puzzled as well. Linley hadn't had any time to consider this question while they were fleeing, but now, Linley suddenly understood after thinking about it. Right. The profound truths of the earth rely on vibrational waves to attack the enemy. The 10 or so tendrils in front of me were directly vibrated into little pieces. Most likely, the dozens of tendrils behind them, although not completely destroyed, should have been badly damaged internally. With its internal components damaged, the tendrils naturally were no longer very tough. Following with another full-strength blow from Blood Violet, it wasn't too difficult to break through those dozens of damaged tendrils. Enough about that. What we need to think about is, how we should deal with the Queen Mother. If we don't eliminate the Queen Mother, it most likely won't permit us to enter the exit and go to the 8th floor. Desri said with a frown. The experts all nodded. What should we do? All of them frowned in thought. One of the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions spoke. Based on what I know, once the tendrils or vines of a plant creature are destroyed, it will be very hard for them to regrow them. The higher class the plant creature is, the tougher and more resilient their tendrils will be, but similarly, the tougher it will be to regrow them. Therefore, what we can do is to divide into multiple attacks, eliminating a few tendrils with each attack. In the end, once the Queen Mother no longer has any tendrils left, won't we be able to slaughter it as we please? Hearing the words of the six-eyed golden Ni lion, Linley, Fane, and the others all nodded. If everyone joined forces and used forbidden level spells and their ultimate attacks at the same time, they should be able to destroy a few tendrils. Once the Queen Mother, La Chapelle, chased after them, they would flee. But then they would attack her, again and again. To reduce the number of tendrils the Queen Mother have was something they were capable of. Slowly, one step at a time, they would still have a chance of success. Can't be done. Bibi shook his head. The entire group of experts looked at Bibi, confused. Bibi shook his head and said, "Earlier, when I went to rescue the boss, I saw exactly what happened. After the boss broke through those tendrils and fled onto my back, those tendrils were regrown, and the speed of the regrowth was very fast. In a short period of time, they were completely recovered. How is that possible?" The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions couldn't believe it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. A 6-eyed golden Ni lion shook his head. But this is what I, Bibi, personally witnessed. How can it be false? Bibi rebutted. In addition, how could I possibly lie about something like this? The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions fell silent. They all believed that in a critical moment such as this, Bibi wouldn't possibly lie. But the 3 brothers had encountered this sort of plant creature in the past, and they knew some things about this type of creature. No matter what the reason is, the fact of the matter is that this Queen Mother's tendrils have the ability to regrow. Desri said solemnly. We need to come up with a method on how to kill the Queen Mother. Everyone stayed silent. The tendrils were so tough that even Linley's full force blow with Blood Violet couldn't break through. The worst part was, this Queen Mother's tendrils could regrow themselves. What to do? The deaths of Rutherford and Karasa were still fresh in the minds of every single expert. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 23, Fast, Slow. The Queen Mother, La Chapelle, possessed tremendous power. In the air above the boundless desert of the 7th floor of the Necropolis of the Gods, the wind blew the sand as Desri, Linley, Fane, and the other human experts, along with Bibi and the other magical beast experts, stood there in mid-air. All of them were seriously pondering their next steps. If we don't have any hope at all, I recommend giving up. Desri forced the words out. The other experts all looked towards Desri. Give up, just like that. Fane's eyes had a hint of unwillingness. They had waited 1,000 years for this opportunity, and they had even passed the 6th floor. He was indeed rather unwilling to give up this opportunity now. We have no hope at all. Desri shook his head. A single tendril of Queen Mother La Chapelle's is already so durable, and she has thousands on thousands of them. More importantly, even if you break those tendrils, they'll naturally regrow. Desri looked around him. Everyone, you tell me, must we insist on going to our deaths? Linley and Bibi exchanged glances. Boss, let's give up. Bibi said mentally to Linley. There's no rush for us. At worst, in another 100 years, when the two of us have become stronger, I'll ask my grandpa Beirut to just open another tunnel to the Necropolis of the Gods, just for us. Bibi felt it was hopeless as well. Linley couldn't help but think back to the terrifying scene of those countless, densely packed tendrils surrounding him, especially the feeling of him being surrounded by them. That sort of dangerous feeling truly was heart-shaking. But just at that moment, those 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions glanced at each other, and one of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions said solemnly, No, we aren't entirely hopeless. We still have a bit of hope. Oh! The levitating experts all stared in surprise towards those 6-eyed golden Ni lions. We still have hope? You say we still have hope? What hope? Fane immediately asked. That 6-eyed golden Ni lion nodded. We 3 brothers have an ultimate attack. Through our 6 eyes, we can emit 6 rays of light to cover our opponent. It will paralyze the opponent and completely prevent them from moving. Paralyze them. Prevent them from moving. Linley was greatly shocked. This ultimate attack was simply too monstrous. Didn't it essentially mean that it would force the opponent to just stand there and be beaten? Everyone present, even the perpetually silent Olivier and the black-scale scorpion, had their eyes filled with amazement. Right. I remember, now. Rosary said with surprised joy. I remember that when we first arrived at the 7th floor and Bibi and the others entered the sands and seized that child monster, it was one of you three brothers who killed the monster. When you killed it, your 6 eyes emanated a ray of black light that surrounded the monster, paralyzing it and forcing it to allow you to kill it. Linley and the others remembered that as well. If that's the case, then we'll win for sure. The black-scale scorpion rumbled. Let that Queen Mother, Lachapel, be paralyzed, and then destroy her soul. Once her soul is destroyed, the Queen Mother will definitely die. It isn't as easy as that. The leader of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions shook his head. Our technique isn't undefeatable. The way you are interpreting it, we would be able to immediately freeze any opponent we encounter and then kill them. Wouldn't that make us invincible? This technique depends on the power of the opponent. Linley and the others nodded. Right. If the 6-eyed golden Ni lions used this technique against a deity, most likely that deity would just kill them with a flip of the hand. This technique of ours is naturally highly effective against that child monster, of course. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion said seriously. But the power of the Queen Mother, Lachapel, is hundreds of times stronger than her children. When she lets loose, her power is astonishingly great. To paralyze her will be very hard. The other 2 6-eyed golden Ni lions nodded as well. Linley and the others all understood this. It was like a giant metal cage. It could be used to imprison a horse or a cow. But if you used the same metal cage, could you possibly use it to trap an enormous dragon that was thousands of times stronger than the horse or the cow? However, although the Queen Mother Lachapel is strong, she isn't at the deity level. If we 3 brothers join forces and use this technique together, most likely, we would be able to paralyze Queen Mother Lachapel for around a second. The leader of the 6-eyed golden Ni lions said. Linley and the others felt joy in their hearts. A second? Although it seemed like a short period of time, to experts such as Linley, a second was enough to allow one to exchange tens or hundreds of blows. But of course, that's just an estimate. After all, without having actually fought her, we don't know how long we can paralyze her for either. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion said. Everyone understood, but they also knew, that these 3 6-eyed golden Ni lion, working together, would definitely be able to cause the Queen Mother to be paralyzed for a moment. Everyone, who amongst us feels confident in being able to kill the Queen Mother in an instant? Desri immediately looked at the others. The 3 6-eyed golden Ni lions would be able to let them one of the experts have a single instant of an opportunity. Now, the question was who had the best chance of success. Sadly, we don't have a Wind-style Grand Mega Saint. Rosary shook her head and sighed. In terms of the most powerful single-target attack, the title had to go to Wind-style Grand Mega Saints. Once the dimensional edge came out, even space itself would be cut through. It would have definitely been capable of cutting the Queen Mother into 2 parts. All the experts present were silent. Linley, how about you? Fane looked at Linley. Linley maintained his silence. The Queen Mother, Lachapel, was surrounded by a dense cluster of tendrils. How long the 6-eyed golden Ni lions would be able to paralyze her for was unknown. If, as soon as he drew near the Queen Mother's body, she escaped from the paralysis, then he would definitely be surrounded by countless tendrils again. He wouldn't even have a chance to run. After all, even the adamantine heavy sword and blood violet combined could only break through roughly 100 tendrils each time. Boss. Bibi shook his head towards Linley. The chance of success was too low. Whoever kills the Queen Mother shall be the one to take possession of the divine artifact of the 7th floor. if there is one. I think no one here will object. Desri looked at everyone. Everyone nodded. We still have 2 years before the 10-year time limit. Linley said solemnly. There's no need for us to rush. Let's spend some time to think about it. All the experts nodded. Unless they had at least some degree of confidence, they wouldn't choose to throw their lives away. The boundless desert. Linley hovered there in mid-air, his eyes shut as he attuned himself to the blowing of the wind. With regards to the elemental laws of the wind, Linley had already gained some new insights into both the fast aspect and the slow aspect. At this moment, he was attuning to himself to the elemental laws, and so he naturally was attuned to these two aspects as well. His mind became one with the wind elemental essences. HRM. Linley's consciousness suddenly had an image appear within it. When the Queen Mother, Lachapel, had attacked the first time. Those tens of thousands of tendrils had suddenly shot out at high speed. At that time, Linley and the other experts had all sensed that the surrounding space had suddenly frozen, and felt as though they were wallowing in cement or through a pool. At that time, the Queen Mother's tendrils were moving in accordance to a strange, profound mystery. It somehow achieved the effect of causing space to freeze. Linley's mind suddenly had a thought. Spatial freezing was in truth, a fairly high-level interpretation of the slow aspect. Linley still had some distance to go from his current level of slowing space to truly freezing space. The Queen Mother's tendrils were all extremely fast. Even Rutherford wasn't able to flee. Linley was puzzled. But when those tendrils shot out, they were so fast that space itself became blurred. It should be the spatial folding interpretation of the fast aspect. But why was it that all of those tendrils combined were able to create the effect of spatial freezing? Linley was puzzled. At the same time, Linley unconsciously began to replay the sight of those countless tendrils shooting out, carefully searching for the profound mysteries within. After a long time, Linley, still standing in mid-air, opened his eyes. With a flip of his hand, he retrieved blood violet. His hand thrust it outwards, and instantly, thousands of blood violets appeared in front of Linley, and the sword blurs caused space itself to begin to blur. This attack was the combination of Linley's understanding of spatial folding and rippling wind attacks, with the rippling wind capable of producing 10 million sword attacks. Not right. Linley frowned. If I want every single sword attack to be like those tendrils, those 10 million sword blurs used simultaneously should be able to create the special effect of spatial freezing. Linley once again struck out with blood violet. Right. Right now, Linley was currently trying to utilize the rippling wind technique to instantly create 10 million swords, imitating the attack of Queen Mother Lachapel. Again. Again. Swish. Blood violet once again transformed into 10 million swords in the air, and the several meters covered by violet sword flashes suddenly began to congeal. The 10 million sword attacks were all like the countless surrounding tendrils, and then, at the same time, they all converged on one point. A sound could be heard. Bang. A tear in space appeared. Linley's eyes lit up. Right. Spatial freezing. Linley's face finally revealed a hint of excitement. Finally. Success. Fortunately, blood violet was capable of twisting and curving. That was the only reason why he could test the attacks time and time again and completely learn and imitate the attack of Queen Mother Lachapel. Only, the attack Queen Mother Lachapel utilized had the thousands of tendrils surround the opponent. But with Linley's attacks, the 10 million swords came together at one point, converging all of their attacks. In the past, the rippling wind attack could continuously send out many attacking swords, but once it transformed into 10 million swords, because of wind friction, the countless swords couldn't converge on one spot simultaneously. Linley had been frustrated over this in the past. When his sword struck out, it naturally had to follow the flows of the wind in order to suddenly produce 10 million swords. But to have the 10 million swords converge on one spot required the swords to go against the natural force of the wind. As the saying goes, a millimeter of difference, 1,000 kilometers of distance. To go against the natural force of the wind meant that one simply couldn't instantly create 10 million swords. But by using this unique cadence when creating all those swords, I can do it? Linley was very surprised. Those 10 million swords came out at once, but they didn't do so wildly and randomly, just following the wind wherever it went. They seemed to travel through a circular arc, creating a strange centrifugal force as all of the swords converged on a single point. How unique! Linley couldn't help but inwardly sigh with amazement. But Linley was also extremely happy. Although each individual sword of those 10 million swords aren't very powerful, when all those swords combine into one, the power of the attack would be thousands of times greater. Linley was extremely excited. When 10 million swords combined into one, the sharpness and the speed of blood violet would come into full play. Profound truths of the wind, myriad swords converge. This was yet another breakthrough in the profound truths of the wind. In terms of attack power, it was even much more powerful than the tempos of the wind. Only, this is a single target attack, only useful against one target. Linley knew very well that when those countless swords combined, wherever the sword passed, all obstacles would be chopped to dust. There was no need to wonder about it. The combined strength of those 10 million swords combining would definitely cause the power of this attack to reach an awesome height. In addition, this attack also contained the strange spatial freezing effect. Why is it that the fast aspect can produce the spatial freezing effect of the slow aspect? Although Linley had successfully developed this attack, he still was puzzled. The fast and slow aspects of the elemental laws of the wind were two totally opposite aspects. But it seemed that they were somehow linked together as well. If I can't figure it out, then I won't think about it. Linley was in an extremely jubilant mood. The most powerful attack of the profound truths of the wind is totally capable of destroying all obstructions. With this attack, there's no need to fear the obstruction of any tendrils. Linley's heart was filled with confidence. 3 days later, having already engraved this most powerful attack of the profound truths of the wind into his heart, Linley immediately headed off with the other experts towards the Queen Mother, Lachapel. This time, the others would all support him with their own attacks, while Linley himself would deliver the final attack. After flying for quite a while, that vast oasis is up ahead. It should be the location of where the many children components of Queen Mother Lachapel have gathered. Desri pointed off into the distance. The place where the Black Pyramid had been was now surrounded by an extremely green sea, formed by those many oases. Haha, and here I thought all of you were so frightened, you had fled to the 6th floor. I didn't expect you would dare to return. The clear voice shook the air above the green sea, and in the air above that green sea, a green, glowing human-formed aberration surrounded by thousands of tendrils was hovering. It was the Queen Mother, Lachapel. Book 11. Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 24, Myriad Swords Converge, the Pearl of Life. The Queen Mother, Lachapel, hovered there in mid-air like a queen, the thousands of nearly translucent green tendrils swiveling around her devilish body. Meanwhile, below her, countless tendrils and vines rose up into the air, waving wildly. Rumbling growls could be heard from beneath the sands. A large number of children components under the control of Queen Mother Lachapel were covering the Black Pyramid, completely blocking it off. Linley glanced at the nearby Rosary and Desri. These two grand mega saints had already begun to mumble the words to their spells, and were about to complete them. Rosary's long, jade-green hair suddenly rose upwards as a wild surge of water-type elemental essence blasted forth from her. Countless amounts of frost and ice descended, and the temperature suddenly reached an extremely low point. Even the countless waving tendrils and vines below them were suddenly frozen. Water-style forbidden level magic, absolute zero. At the same instant, a surge of invisible, Ripple-like energy blasted out from Desri, shooting directly towards the mid-air Queen Mother Lachapel. The Queen Mother Lachapel's body only trembled slightly, and she wasn't much affected. Crunch. Bang. Many tendrils shattered from the cold. The body of Queen Mother Lachapel was covered with a layer of frost as well. This is the attack you have planned. Queen Mother Lachapel laughed wildly. In terms of spiritual energy, how can the likes of you compare to me? As for water-style magic, haha, that's even more laughable. I, Lachapel, am a practitioner of the elemental laws of water and wind. So powerful. Linley's group sighed in their hearts. Plant-type creatures which had large bodies generally also had enormously powerful souls to match. The Queen Mother's real body was actually even more terrifyingly enormous, but as she trained, she had naturally begun to shrink it in size, but her soul had only grown more and more powerful. Both sides were peak saints. But human saints were far inferior to this sort of terrifying plant creature. The Queen Mother Lachapel's words had just come out. Pew. 18 rays of black light shot out from the eyes of the three siblings, the six-eyed golden Ni lions. Those 18 rays of light instantly covered Queen Mother Lachapel. It was as though her enormous body and tendrils had suddenly been covered with a layer of black skin. The eyes of Queen Mother Lachapel instantly widened, and her delicate face instantly changed and contorted. She couldn't move. Swoosh. Working in perfect concert, as those 18 rays of light had shot out, Linley had already flown straight to the Queen Mother at high speed. Gruol. Kill him. Countless child components from beneath the sand roared deafeningly, wanting to watch as their Queen Mother annihilated these humans. But in that moment, none of them had noticed that their Queen Mother could no longer move. Blood violet in one hand, and the adamantine heavy sword in the other, the dragon-formed Linley stared straight at the distant Queen Mother Lachapel with his dark gold eyes. At his highest speed, he charged towards her. Linley had already entered the range of the countless tendrils and vines of Queen Mother Lachapel. Linley's lips quirked upwards. The wild wind howled as Linley instantly crossed hundreds of meters, reaching a distance of less than 100 meters away from Lachapel. To Linley, 100 meters was but the blink of an eye, but when experts fought, that blink of an eye was what determined victory. Roar! A furious roar escaped the lips of Queen Mother Lachapel. Countless tendrils, and those vines surrounding the Queen Mother's body, shot directly towards Linley. The Queen Mother's eyes were filled with boundless rage, and she swore to herself that she was going to kill all of the humans in front of her, starting with the one closest. The Queen Mother had broken free of the paralysis. Not good. The faces of Desri, Rosary, and the others all changed. Bibi's beady little eyes suddenly had a red light flash through them, while at the same time his body became covered with a layer of pitch-black light. Bibi transformed into a black ray of light, ignoring the deadly danger as he charged over. Boss. Bibi was extremely worried. An enormous number of tendrils snaked towards him. Linley himself was very calm. He had prepared for this eventuality long ago. Blood violet, in his hand, suddenly transformed into 10 million devilish flashes of violet light. Everywhere the flashes appeared, blurry folds in space could be seen, while at the same time, the violet flashes of light all bizarrely coiled and snaked their way forward in a very peculiar pattern as they stabbed towards one spot. Spatial freezing. The large number of tendrils charging towards him suddenly dropped dramatically in speed, as though they were traveling through mud. As for Linley's 10 million sword flashes, they actually converged on one spot, uniting into one indistinct, heart-stopping violet light. This violet light was like a comet charging straight ahead, utterly unblockable. Bang! The violet sword light charged forwards, and those tough, half-translucent tendrils instantly crumbled and shattered, with countless tendril parts sent flying everywhere. Profound truths of the wind, myriad swords converge. The most powerful sword attack which Linley could muster through using the profound truths of the wind. Linley instantly scurried out from the space that had been shattered by his myriad swords converge attack, while the Queen Mother, Lachapel, stared in astonishment. How is that possible? Her tendrils were far more powerful than those of the child components. So many tendrils had surrounded the human, but the human had instantly broken through. Die. Having breached the cage of tendrils, Linley had already reached the air above Queen Mother Lachapel's head, and the adamantine heavy sword in Linley's hand came chopping down. Lachapel immediately dove down at high speed. But how could her body's movement speed compare with the weapon's? Queen Mother Lachapel also controlled her tendrils to block, but it was too late. Bang! Linley's adamantine heavy sword collided with Lachapel's head. The adamantine heavy sword only lightly touched Lachapel's head, and Lachapel's massive body suddenly began to tremble, and then a green liquid began to flow out from her mouth and her eyes. Those wildly waving tendrils had already begun to droop down lifelessly. Linley's other hand didn't just rest, he once again utilized the myriad swords converge attack. The devilish flash of 10 million swords, moving in that strange cadence, once more appeared, and space once more froze. Those 10 million swords converged on a single location, forming a blurry, violet sword flash, which pierced directly towards Queen Mother Lachapel's head. Bang! Starting from the head, the Queen Mother's entire body collapsed and transformed into green-colored debris. Only after her body burst apart did Linley realize that actually, her internals had already been shaken by the profound truths of the earth into something as soft as mud. But when the Queen Mother's body fully collapsed, Linley found to his surprise, that within the body of this Queen Mother, there was a very small, yet glittering, green glowing translucent pearl. With a flip of his hand, Linley grabbed the translucent pearl. As for Queen Mother Lachapel, the remaining half of her body and a large number of tendrils collapsed lifelessly from mid-air, falling downwards and smashing into the countless vines below. The wildly waving tendrils of the green sea below suddenly halted. None of these plant creatures could dare believe it. Their mighty Queen Mother had been killed in mid-air by this warrior who looked like a draconian. Their invincible Queen Mother had died. Listen up! Linley shouted coldly towards the people below. All of you better scram. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you, just like how I just killed your Queen Mother. Linley swept the ground coldly with his gaze. Rustle, rustle. Countless tendrils and vines frantically sank into the sand, and the green sea that had occupied an extremely wide expanse of space suddenly transformed into desert again. As for those plant creatures, they all fled at high speed in terror. Even their Queen Mother, who was hundreds of times more powerful than them, had died. How could they, mere child components, compete? The Black Pyramid, which had been covered by countless vines and rattans, now revealed its true appearance once again. Boss, you scared me to death. Bibi was now by Linley's side, and he had reabsorbed that layer of black light back into his body. Linley couldn't help but hug Bibi. Although Bibi was emotionally immature, sometimes naughty and mischievous, while at other times as bloodthirsty as any magical beast, he was willing to give up his life for Linley's sake. The two had grown up together, and their lives were like one. Their affection for each other was so deep, that with their souls interlinked, they could physically sense it. I'm fine. Without a degree of certainty, would I, your boss, dare act in such a way? Linley snickered. At this time, Desri and the others flew over as well. After the sudden reversal in fortune they had just witnessed, they now all had incandescent smiles on their faces. Linley, when you demonstrated that attack of yours in front of us earlier, I didn't have much confidence. Fane laughed. But after seeing it just now, I now know how powerful that sword of yours is. No matter how powerful one's defense is, one still won't be able to take that sword of yours. When Linley had demonstrated it, he was only demonstrating it into the air. How could Fane and the others clearly see how powerful it was? Everyone, let's hurry up and see if can find if there are any divine artifacts here on the 7th floor. Desri said to everyone. We agreed early on that the person to kill the Queen Mother would take possession of the divine artifacts, if there are any. Linley risked his life to kill her, and so he should get the divine artifact. Everyone, search carefully. Linley hurriedly said. No need to go to so much trouble. You just stay here. We'll help you look. One of the six-eyed golden Ni lions said. They had underestimated the strength and power of the Queen Mother. Even when the three brothers had joined forces and executed their forbidden technique, they had only been able to paralyze the Queen Mother for an instant. Linley had made the greatest contribution to killing the Queen Mother. Everyone hurriedly began to help search for the divine artifact, and even Olivier voluntarily flew down to the ground. All of the experts began to carefully search. As for Linley, he flew to the exit platform next to the Black Pyramid. This was because last time, on the 6th floor, this was where the divine artifacts had been placed. But this time, it was different. Nothing there. Linley shook his head. He had searched for quite some time by the stairs, but he hadn't found anything. The experts searched carefully in a circle with an area of a square kilometer. In the end, they all returned to the Black Pyramid. Did you find anything? Desri asked. The others all shook their heads. Desri frowned. Strange. On the 6th floor, including the hatchet the Flame Tyrant had, there were a total of 3 divine artifacts. The Queen Mother Lachapel of the 7th floor was at a higher level of power than the Flame Tyrant. But we weren't even able to find a single divine artifact. Linley was puzzled as well. This shouldn't be the case. Fane was confused as well. Where is that divine artifact? Oh, right. Rosarie's eyes lit up. On the 6th floor, the Flame Tyrant himself was wielding that great axe. Were there any divine artifacts on Lachapel's body? Linley, did you see anything? On her body. Linley started. And then, Linley instantly thought of the round pearl he had already absorbed into his interspatial ring. He immediately retrieved it with a flip of his hand. Right. When I killed the Queen Mother and her body collapsed, I found a seemingly unusual pearl inside her body, and so I grabbed it. Take a look. What is this? Linley didn't think that this round pearl was a divine artifact. As he saw it, it should be something similar to a magical beast's magi sight core, the essence of the Queen Mother. Pearl of Life. Upon seeing the round pearl in Linley's hand, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions let out simultaneous cries of shock. Linley, Desri, and the others all stared at the 3 six-eyed golden lions in puzzlement. One of them immediately explained, this pearl of life is a type of spiritual pearl treasure which we once saw in the past when we were with Father. Now we understand, why that Queen Mother Lachapel was able to instantly regrow her damaged tendrils. If the pearl of life enters one's body, then the boundless life energy contained within the pearl of life will be provided to the user. Even if one's body is chopped into 8 pieces, it will return to normal in a flash, needing just 1 or 2 seconds. In other words, as long as your soul isn't destroyed, then you will never die. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion said excitedly, to saint-level experts, this pearl of life is more precious than any divine artifact. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 25, Entering the 8th Floor. Even after one's body was chopped into 7 or 8 pieces, it would still recover in 1 or 2 seconds. Such a regenerative ability made the eyes of the surrounding experts all light up. To saints, this sort of treasure was incomparably valuable. But it's only of use to saints. To deities, toys like this are totally worthless. The 6-eyed golden Ni lion laughed. Desri nodded as well. Deities possess a divine spark, and their divine bodies are formed from divine energy. Even if they are badly wounded, as long as their souls aren't destroyed, their body can be reborn even if reduced to nothingness. The difference between saints and deities was enormous. Linley and the others couldn't help but sigh deep in their hearts. The deity level. Even someone as powerful as Linley, in front of a deity, wouldn't be able to fight back at all. A single step, but one which blocked countless saints. Big brother. The other six-eyed golden Ni lion said, even if a person puts this pearl of life into their body, and their soul is undamaged, they can still be killed. Have you forgotten what father said? The leader of the six-eyed golden Ni lions nodded. Oh, you are talking about the body being entirely destroyed. Linley, Desri, Fane, and the others all looked at the six-eyed golden Ni lion in confusion. The leading six-eyed golden Ni lion explained to Linley and the others, the energy of this pearl of life can regenerate the body. In other words, you have to at least have a small part of the body left. Only then can the rest of your body be reborn from that part. If your entire body is destroyed, then you will die, of course. Oh, so that's what you mean. Linley and the others now understood. But Linley, the six-eyed golden Ni lion looked at Linley. With the pearl of life, don't end up being too arrogant. In the countless planes, there are many techniques that can use to utterly destroy an opponent's body. Opponents who train in elemental laws of fire and the elemental laws of water all can accomplish such a thing. I know. Linley laughed calmly. The elemental laws are as vast as the ocean. I only know 1 or 2 drops of water in that ocean. Your body is very tough, and you have a pearl of life. What you need to do is to focus your time improving your spiritual attacks and spiritual defenses. The six-eyed golden Ni lion seemed to take great interest in Linley's well-being. There's all sorts of spiritual type attacks, and they number beyond counting. If you are incautious just a single time, then you'll be done for. Linley nodded. The soul was indeed a profound, abstruse thing. For example, the Grand Magus Necromancer, Zisler, could easily command the undead, and even question the souls of others. For example, Beirut, who was at such a level that even saints such as Rudy and Dylan had their memories scanned, without them knowing a thing. A technique like this, was absolutely astonishing and unheard of. For experts such as him, directly controlling saints would probably be extremely easy. In the past, when the Holy Emperor Haydn's used his oracular magic to attack me, my soul's defense nearly collapsed. In the future, I need to be careful of this. Linley said to himself. Haydn's, if placed amongst the countless ranks of saints in the myriad other planes, was nothing more than average. There were far too many saints who were more talented than him in spiritual attacks. Linley's spiritual defensive power was actually inferior to even the likes of saints such as Rosary and Desri. As least experts like Desri, when facing Haydn's, wouldn't have been nearly trounced so easily. Soul-based attacks include charms, hypnotism, paralysis, destruction, and all sorts of other techniques. There are forceful ones, and there are soft ones. Desri sighed. The more one studies this, the more one realizes how boundless and deep it is. In the past, the war god had said that the high priest, with but a glance, could let us sink into an illusion, and if in the illusion we think that we have died, in real life, we really will have died and our soul will dissipate. Oh! Linley was greatly shocked. The high priest was this terrifying? Rosary chortled, what can you do? After becoming a deity, the weakest aspect one has is the spirit. Demigods, gods, high gods, all of them will spend their effort on studying the profound mysteries contained within the soul. After all, they don't want to die. Fane laughed. Linley, you had best bind this pearl of life with blood. Otherwise, we'll all grow covetous as we stare at it. Chuckling, Linley immediately bloodbound it. Immediately, this translucent pearl of life, glowing with a hazy green light, entered Linley's body. Linley could clearly sense that his heart, his muscles, and his bones were all filled with boundless life force. Even if part of his body was severed, he would still quickly be able to heal. Linley's group was in no rush to go to the 8th floor. They first rested and made preparations here on the 7th floor. After all, once they entered the 8th floor, who knows what sort of terrifying creatures they would find there. Off in the distance, Tulili was constantly training with using his scimitar. It hadn't been long since he had this Bloodshadow scimitar, and so he was now constantly testing how to best utilize its power. As for Olivier, Desri, and the others, they all sat off to the side, meditating quietly. I've been at the rank of Archmagus of the 9th rank for so long, yet I still haven't made a breakthrough. Seated in the meditative posture on the sand, Linley sighed to himself. But he understood that something like this couldn't be rushed. The more you tried to rush it, the harder it would be to break through. Bibi was curled up on Linley's leg, sleeping comfortably. Bibi. Linley spoke. Wharton was his little brother. And Bibi was also his little brother. Towards his family, Linley always had a protective instinct. Yeah, boss. Bibi raised his little head to stare at Linley. Linley said softly, Bibi, each layer of the necropolis of the gods grows more and more dangerous. I can no longer imagine what we will encounter when we go to the 8th floor, or what will happen. But Bibi, it's best if you don't go to the 8th floor. Boss. Bibi's eyes instantly turned round. Bibi, is your defense stronger than the flame tyrant's? Is your attack superior to his? Bibi, you are still growing. There's no need for you to risk yourself like this. Linley himself wasn't afraid, but he was somewhat worried for Bibi. Boss, if you go, I go. Bibi was very stubborn. Linley shook his head. That isn't it? I have the pearl of life. It's much safer for me. More importantly, I feel as though there is something in this necropolis of the gods which is waiting for me, which is calling to me. Especially after actually entering the necropolis of the gods, Linley could even more clearly sense that calling sensation. It was a call which set his soul a-strumming. Whether it was because of his desire to train himself, or because it had to do with discovering the profound secrets of the 4 supreme warriors, or because of the call to his soul, Linley didn't want to retreat. Boss, I'll go with you. Bibi stared at Linley with his little eyes. It's just a bit of danger. What are you afraid of, boss? In the past, when we were in the mountain range of magical beasts, we were so weak, but we even managed to survive the attack of the armored razorback Wyrm. When the Radiant Church pursued and tried to kill us, we still made it through. Back then, we were very weak, but we still weren't afraid. Now that we are strong, are we going to start being afraid? You better understand that I, Bibi, am really badass now. Bibi stood up straight, intentionally puffing his little chest out. Linley couldn't help but laugh, but at the same time, he felt a surge of gratitude. In addition, Linley couldn't help but think back to his memories of his youth, when he and Bibi together ventured into the foggy gulch. Haha, fine. Whether we live or we die, we'll do it all together. Linley laughed as he hugged Bibi, and Bibi laughed as well. They stayed at the 7th floor for 7 days. Linley's group came to the entrance to the 8th floor. The Grand Mega Saints, Desri and Rosalie, had already prepared defensive spells for themselves, while Linley had transformed into his Dragon Blood Warrior form. Everyone was ready now. Everyone, be careful. Now, let's head out. Desri said. Immediately, the 11 experts entered the tunnel into the Black Pyramid one by one. This tunnel was completely covered with black light. After walking for but a short while, Linley's group arrived at the 8th floor. It is so similar to the 3rd floor. Linley stared at his surroundings. The 8th floor of the necropolis of the gods had an extremely thick layer of ice as its ground. This was a world of ice. From afar, there were enormous glaciers and icebergs which gleamed with dazzling light. Only the cold, desolate wind howled across the landscape, blowing a few pieces of ice here and there. Desri, Linley, Fane, Bibi, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, and the other experts all carefully inspected their surroundings. Search for the exit. Desri said softly while flying up. The 11 experts began to fly together, beginning to stealthily search for the exit to the 9th floor. But of course, as they flew, they were very cautious, afraid of finding living creatures here on the 8th floor. But after flying for a long time. Hey, this 8th floor is strange. Rosary was puzzled. We've been searching for such a long time. Why haven't we seen a single living thing? Indeed. In both the 6th and the 7th floor, as soon as they stepped in, they discovered living creatures, such as the magma demons of the 6th floor, or the child plants of the 7th floor. They were very easily discovered. But here on the 8th floor, Linley and the others had flown for at least 1,000 kilometers, but hadn't seen a single living thing. This 8th floor is quite bizarre. Fane was staring at his surroundings as well. The 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were also on their guard, constantly scanning the area, hoping to find any hints or clues. Staring at the surrounding area, Linley lowered his voice to a whisper. No matter what sort of creature this 8th floor has, it would be best if we could enter the 9th floor without disturbing it. Let's look for the exit first. The others all nodded in agreement. If they could avoid a battle, that would be for the best. Everyone continued to carefully search for the tunnel. Linley and the others were still worried that they might encounter the creatures of the 8th floor later, but... Whoosh! On the 8th floor, Linley and the group only heard the howling cold wind, and didn't see any living creature at all. After flying for nearly an hour, they finally discovered the stairways, covered with black light. This was the exit to the 9th floor. Linley, Desri, Olivier, Fane, and the other experts all exchanged glances, surprise and joy in their eyes. We really are lucky this time. We didn't encounter a single creature before finding the exit. Rosary laughed softly. The others laughed and nodded as well. Let's go. We're going to the 9th floor. Fane said, somewhat excited. He immediately moved towards it. But what none of the 11 experts had noticed was that on the slick, gleaming surface of a seemingly normal iceberg nearby the stairs, there was a black pattern. Suddenly, the black pattern exploded forth, revealing an eye that was at least 3 or 4 meters tall. A golden eye? Bang! The iceberg shattered apart with a boom, and from within it appeared a giant formed from ice. The only part of the giant that wasn't formed from ice was that single, glowing golden eye. Humans, you killed Lachapel? That is truly excellent. This gigantic Iceman's voice seemed to shake the 8th floor like thunder. At the same time, Fane, who had just walked towards the exit, suddenly discovered that the tunnel to the 9th floor became sealed by ice out of nowhere. The layer of ice was many meters thick. Linley, Fane, Desri, and the others all simultaneously discovered this gigantic Iceman who had suddenly appeared, and they quickly flew back. What sort of creature is this? Linley looked at the place on the face of the gigantic Iceman where its eyes should be, but unlike humans who had 2 eyes, this creature only had that single, golden glowing eye. Linley only cast a single glance towards the gold eye, but as he did, he felt as though his soul had suddenly suffered a powerful blow, and he instantly felt dizzy. You killed Lachapel. I'm very happy about that. As your reward, I will only kill 6 of the 11 of you. The other 5 will be permitted to return to the 7th floor with your lives. The gigantic Iceman's voice was very gentle, as though he were a kindly old man. Linley, Fane, Desri, and the others felt their hearts tremble. A beholder? Careful, don't look at its eye. A 6-eyed golden Ni lion growled. Linley had recovered to his normal mental state by now. Beholder. The gigantic Iceman laughed. No. You shouldn't refer to me as a beholder. To be more precise, I am the ruler of the race of beholders from the Bint Elah Bing Te land plain. You can refer to me as the Beholder King. The gigantic Iceman said brightly. And then, its glowing golden eye stared down at the group of people below. So I'm going to kill 6 of you. I'll start with you 2 humans first. As he spoke, the golden eye suddenly emitted 2 rays of nearly translucent gray light. The 2 rays of light were simply too fast, and the worst part of it was, neither Linley nor Olivier had dared to look at its golden eye. They only realized what had happened when the gray light had almost reached them. It was too late. Pew! Pew! The 2 rays of gray light sank into the bodies of Linley and Olivier. Book 11, Necropolis of the Gods, Chapter 26, The Beholder King. Cold. As the grey ray of light struck him, a bone-piercing cold spread to every part of Linley's body. Linley felt as though his entire body had turned numb with cold, and then, that ray of grey light directly went from Linley's body to his mind, attacking his soul. The waters of his sea of consciousness slowly surged about, with that 7-color gem that was his soul floating in the middle of it, with a faint blue light permeating that sea of consciousness as well as dimly covering the 7-color gem. The grey light dispersed, wrapping itself around the boundless sea of consciousness. The surging sea of consciousness suddenly came to a halt, and not even the protective blue light resisted even slightly. The entire sea of consciousness, as well as that 7-color gem, were completely covered with a layer of grey light. The soul came to a halt. The light in Linley's eyes grew dim, and a robotic, numb look appeared in them. Right now, Linley's soul had stopped moving, and naturally his mind had came to a halt as well. His soul had been frozen. Rumble, Linley's body began to quickly be covered by a hard layer of ice. In the blink of an eye, Linley's entire body was completely sealed off by ice that was multiple meters thick, transforming into a large ice cube. As for Olivier, he, too, had changed into an ice cube. Desri and Fane stared, speechless. The Beholder King had a hint of laughter in his voice. Staring at the distant Desri, Fane, and the others, he said, I know that one of you is definitely in possession of the Pearl of Life, but sadly, the Pearl of Life is useless against me. First I'll freeze them, and then later, I'll torture them to death. All right, time to deal with 4 more. The Beholder King's voice was very gentle, but Desri and the others felt their hearts tremble. They knew how powerful Linley was, but Linley hadn't been able to resist at all in the face of this Beholder King. Actually, when the Necropolis of the Gods was first constructed and filled, all of the life forms that were qualified to be placed on the 7th and 8th floors were some of the most powerful saint-level creatures which existed in the countless planes of the universe. Different types of life forms naturally had different levels of power. For example, the Beholder was extremely talented at dealing against souls. The golden eye of the Beholder King suddenly swiveled to stare at Olivier, who had been frozen into an ice cube. Boom! Countless shards of ice exploded in all directions. His long, black and white hair flowing gracefully, Olivier charged out of the ice cube with that mystic ice's word in his hands. The Beholder King stared at Olivier in astonishment. What a strange soul! How is it possible for your soul to be offensive in nature? This was his greatest secret. This was the reason why, after his duel with Hadesun, his power had suddenly grown so dramatically. And why he was now capable of simultaneously using the elemental laws of darkness and light. Olivier didn't say a thing. He transformed into a ray of light as he charged towards Linley. Before Olivier arrived, Bibi had already charged to Linley. The Beholder King's attention was totally focused on Olivier, and not even Bibi, who had transformed into a black blur as he had flown towards Linley, tried to stop Olivier. Bibi's heart was frantic with fear. Boss, wake up, wake up. Bibi's voice was transmitted to Linley's consciousness. Bibi and Linley's souls were linked, and the reason why they could mentally talk to each other was that their souls were talking to each other. Linley's consciousness, which had been completely frozen, shook slightly, but the gray light quickly expanded in intensity, and the sea of consciousness once more returned to its previous calm, not moving at all. Slash. BB slashed open the ice cube with one claw, the terrifying force of that blow turning the piece of torn off ice to powder. Boss, wake up. Wake up. BB wildly, frantically tried to wake Linley up by calling to him mentally. The frozen soul was completely separated from the outside world. Even if his body was destroyed, Linley wouldn't feel a thing. Only the sort of mental communication which a pre-existing soul bond permitted was able to ignore the separation. Linley's sea of consciousness once more shook, and the grey light covering his sea of consciousness once more lit up, but clearly, the intensity of that light was growing dimmer and dimmer. This power which was suppressing the sea of consciousness clearly was constantly consuming energy. Keep on spiritually communicating with Linley. If you keep it up, you should be able to wake him up. Olivier said to BB. Hurry up and leave. BB, carrying Linley, transformed into a ray of light, fleeing at high speed while constantly calling out to Linley mentally. Finally, in Linley's mind, his sea of consciousness trembled yet again, and that thin layer of grey light, already stretched to the limit, totally collapsed. What happened? Linley was now totally awake. He discovered, to his astonishment, that he was currently being carried by an enlarged BB, who was flying at high speed. Boss, wake up, wake up. BB was still constantly calling out to him, his eyes filled with tears. BB. Linley spoke back mentally, while now flying on his own. BB started, and then his little eyes were filled with surprise and joy. What just happened? Linley was completely lost. He only remembered being struck by that ray of grey light, and then his body turned cold. After that, he remembered nothing. After waking up, he found that he was being carried by BB, who was fleeing at high speed. Bang! From afar came a terrifying explosive sound. Many pieces of ice shot out like meteors, howling through the air as they moved at high speed. Linley and BB easily dodged past them while turning to stare into the distance. It wasn't just Linley who had turned to look, even Desri, Fane, the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions, and the other fleeing experts all turned to stare as well. When they did, looks of surprised joy appeared on their faces. The enormous icy body of the Beholder King had exploded. Clearly, Olivier had shattered it with his sword. Right now, Olivier was currently wielding his long sword in his hand as he stood there in mid-air, his eyes shut. Excellent. Linley sighed in praise. Olivier, careful. A 6-eyed golden Ni lion shouted loudly. The actual body of the Beholder King is that eye. That body of ice is only formed from energy. Ha. That glowing golden eye, floating in mid-air, somehow spoke in a strange voice. Right. The magical beast speaks correctly. The body of ice is nothing more than something I casually created. Ha, I've been in the necropolis of the gods for a long time, and I've killed quite a few experts, but I've never encountered anyone with a soul as unique as yours. Interesting. Oliver's eyes remained shut, and a large amount of extremely sparse black energy was emanating in all directions from him. He was relying on this dark energy to cover the area and allow him to know the location of the Beholder King. After all, Olivier didn't dare to stare directly into that golden eye. The closer one was to the golden eye, the more dangerous it would be to stare into it. For the likes of Linley, who had already fled kilometers away, no matter how good their vision was, they would only be able to hazily make out a golden spot of light. They wouldn't be affected. Swish. Black energy covered half of Oliver's body, while light-style energy covered his other half. His long black and white hair rustled as his battle chi expanded. Olivier, eyes shut, shot out towards the golden eye like an arrow. The mystic ice's word in his hands chopped down with as much force and vigor as ever. Wherever his long sword passed by, countless patterns in space appeared. Swish! A dreamlike flash of light. The golden eye suddenly disappeared, reappearing 100 meters away. Its speed was so fast that it was even faster than the likes of Bibi, Fane, and Desri by a good amount. The enormous golden eye somehow spoke. "Haha, you want to kill me? In your dreams." At the same time, a wild, explosive burst of icy energy suddenly began to flow towards the golden eye, instantly forming a ferocious icy whirlpool around it. The golden eye was at the heart of this enormous whirlpool. Seeing the scene playing out in the distance, Desri, Linley, and the other experts gathered together. "Everyone, be careful. Don't get hit by that grey light." Desri looked at everyone in the circle. "Everyone, what should we do?" Upon seeing how fast that golden eye could move, all the experts present understood that in terms of speed, none of them could match this Beholder King. "There's one final method," a six-eyed golden eye lion said. "We three brothers can do the same thing as we did in the 7th floor. We'll simultaneously attack and paralyze that Beholder King. I trust that the Beholder King's countering abilities won't be as strong as that of the Queen Mother, Lachapel." Everyone's eyes lit up. "Although you can paralyze it, even if the Beholder King can't move, he can still emit those rays of grey light," Linley said with a frown. "It's fine. While paralyzing it, we can attack the eye," Fane said. "Perhaps we'll be able to kill this Beholder King." "No, I strongly recommend that we not try to kill the Beholder King. It's better if we enter the 9th floor instead." The six-eyed golden eye lion argued against it. "Why?" Desri didn't understand, so he asked. The other six-eyed golden eye lion said, "Based on what we know, beholders are extremely proficient at attacking. Aside from the spiritual attack this one just used against Linley and Olivier, they possess other attacks as well, such as mind control as well as other, physical attacks." Everyone's hearts shook. "Cleo and the other two will paralyze the Beholder King, and I will attack it." The black scale scorpion, which had been silent up until now, suddenly spoke up. "All of you rush into the 9th floor." Everyone stared in astonishment at the black scale scorpion. "Don't worry. I have a degree of confidence." The black scale scorpion was actually very confident. "Haha, do you think I am only capable of freezing your soul?" From the distance, loud laughter could be heard. The wild whirlpool had already come to a halt, and now an icy giant which was only 10 meters tall had appeared, a single golden eye located within the giant's body. The ice was translucent. One could clearly see that enormous golden eye within the body of the ice giant. "Let's head out," the leader of the six-eyed golden eye lions said. Immediately, those 10 experts flew back at high speed. At this moment, the Beholder King's interest was all focused on Olivier. In all his years, the Beholder King had never encountered a soul as interesting as Oliver's. As someone extremely knowledgeable in souls, he naturally wanted to take Olivier alive, dominate Oliver's soul, and then carefully examine him. Swoosh! The ice giant charged towards Olivier in a flash. Oliver's eyes were still closed. He flew back at high speed, while at the same time, chopping out with the black icy sword in his hand. Clang! The ice giant directly blocked with his left arm. At the same time, his right fist smashed viciously towards Olivier. Unable to retract his sword in time, Olivier was smashed flying backwards. Bang! He struck a distant iceberg, which immediately cracked. Olivier rolled away, then stood up. What a tough arm! It is dozens of times tougher than it was earlier. Olivier felt shock in his heart. This ice giant, after its body had been smashed apart and then reformed, was tremendously more defensive now, despite having shrunk from its earlier size of a mountain to now just 10 meters. Oliver's full force blow only managed to cut halfway through the arm of the ice giant. Just as the Beholder King was about to continue charging towards Olivier, he suddenly saw a black shadow scurry towards the exit. He couldn't help but feel a sudden burst of anger. Swish! A ray of grey light directly shot out from the golden eye in the body of the ice giant. The black blur seemed to have already predicted what was going to happen, and it immediately dodged, then smashed into the ice-covered exit. The tough ice was shattered by the force of the collision. "Boss, everyone, quick!" A sound rang out from within the exit. Arg! The Beholder King was enraged. He didn't expect that those intruders who had fled would actually dare to return. He now noticed that the group of experts including Desri, Fane, Linley, and the 3 six-eyed golden Ni lions were flying at high speed towards the exit. Die! The Beholder King exploded with fury, and its single golden eye suddenly emanated a golden ray of light the thickness of an arm. This dazzling ray of golden light split the air in an instant, shooting directly towards the human in front, Desri. But the black scale scorpion next to Desri suddenly pointed its scorpion tail directly at the single golden eye of the Beholder King. Pew! A thin, finger-thick ray of black light shot out at high speed from the scorpion tail, traveling even faster than the ray of golden light. In an instant, it arrived at the body of the ice giant. The furious Beholder King actually didn't dodge. No. It wasn't that he didn't dodge. It was. The Beholder King's body was now already covered by a layer of black light. At present, just like Queen Mother Lachapel, he was completely paralyzed and couldn't move at all. The ultimate attack of the six-eyed golden Ni lions, imprisonment. Pew! The ray of light shot out by the scorpion tail of the black scale scorpion easily penetrated the ice, striking directly into the enormous golden eye in the center of the giant. The Beholder King let out an agonized scream, and that layer of black light covering its body actually began to tremble. Swoosh! Swoosh! Linley, Desri, Fane, and the other experts seized this opportunity to rocket straight into the exit. Even Olivier had seized the opportunity to charge towards the exit at high speed.